Welcome, everybody. It's Miles Culture Plate. Ladies and gentlemen, feds and degenerates, cuckolds of all ages, yes, it is Miles Culture Plate. It is that time once again, 6 p.m. Central Time, Wednesday, November 8th, 2023. Tonight, we have a packed show for you. In fact, sorry, I'm a few minutes later than I usually am because I was working on something special for the show tonight. I'm still not quite done. I realized what time it was and that I was going along. But we're almost there. So I might try to, clean it up while finishing the broadcast here. We have a packed show for you today. First off, this is going to be a 3-hour show. We're going to do the usual 1-hour Miles Culture Plate that we always do every Wednesday. And then we're going to go right into the Republican presidential primary debate between Ron DeSantis, Tim Scott, Chris Christie, Nikki Haley, and Vivek Ramaswamy. So it ought to be an interesting night. But yeah, we have a lot of stories for you today. Starting off, I guess I'm going to be drinking back to the Wolcott Bottled in Bond. If you would like a toast or a shout out, feel free to say hello to me in the chat as we do every show here on Miles Culture Plate. And in the meantime, if you would just take a minute and click that thumbs up, click that like button, help me get my show visible. Because if we can get visible on Rumble here, then it should be, hopefully get some more people in here chit-chatting for the debates. In the meantime, let me close this and close that. Okay. In the meantime, we do have some interesting topics to cover. Let's start off with this. Have you? How many of y'all have been watching this TV show Reacher? Anyone out there in the chat? No, nobody. Okay. So let's look. So there's a new trailer for the upcoming season of Reacher, and I wanted to just watch like the first 20 or so seconds of this first little angle here. Because it's relevant here. Let me bring this up. In fact, let me go full screen on it here. Check this out. Watch this for a minute.
You've been carjacked, right? Don't turn around. This won't take long.
Wait, who are
And of course, my computer's
you?
Someone who prefers not getting involved.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you folks. That just came out. So the reason I wanted to show you that was because this story is going viral on the internet here. Good Samaritan prevents carjacking in Ocala Starbucks drive-thru. And this is from Florida here, Ocala, Florida. A woman's ordinary morning coffee run turned into a heart-pounding encounter when she was nearly carjacked while waiting in Starbucks drive-thru. Thanks to a quick-thinking Good Samaritan, what could have ended much worse was thwarted. As Shane Spicer waited for his coffee, police were in pursuit of a dangerous suspect identified as Michael Prouty, who was wanted for breaking into someone's home and stealing their car. Prouty's reckless high-speed chase came to a dramatic halt when he crashed at a busy intersection and attempted to flee on foot. Anyway, so let's watch the video. They're pretty much going verbiage for verbiage what's going to be in this video here. So let's watch the video.
Welcome back, everyone. A woman's morning coffee came with a side of fear in Ocala. She was nearly carjacked while sitting in a Starbucks drive-thru. Now, if it wasn't for the Good Samaritan in the line behind her, things could have ended a lot worse.
Just getting started with the day. It had maybe been awake for 20.
So this is Shane Spicer. He's the hero of the story, right? He's our Jack Reacher of the story here. So let's give him a toast. Cheers to Shane Spicer. If you're out there, brother, you know, good going on you here.
25 minutes. I live about a mile from that Starbucks.
While Shane Spicer waited for coffee, police were in a high-speed chase with a man they called a dangerous suspect. Police say Michael Prouty, who was wanted for breaking into someone's home and stealing their car, crashed at a busy intersection and then took off running.
It's a white male bailing. He's now at Starbucks.
Police
What a
dashcam video
scumbag.
shows Prouty trying
Like he
to
crashes
carjack
one
a
stolen
woman,
car.
but Shane Spicer jumps in the passenger seat trying to stop him. Spicer, an Army veteran, decided Prouty wasn't going to slip away again.
I'm going to get you, buddy. Like, you're not going anywhere now. Like, you crossed the line.
Body cam video shows Spicer again holding onto the suspect while officers ran up to arrest him. Several people were hurt in the crash, but Spicer says he was able to walk away from the takedown just a little out of breath.
I feel like if you got like the ability to watch out for someone, that you should, you know, and I would just hope to say that someone would do the same for my family.
Thank goodness he was there. The woman who was almost carjacked is pregnant, but is expected to be okay. Spicer says shortly after this incident, she reached out to him and thanked him.
Okay, so that's that. So yeah, cheers to Mr. Spicer there, man. Oh, it's playing something else. Cheers to Spicer, man. Good going on you, man. Good thinking there, man. Not a lot of people would be brave enough to like just jump out of their car in a Starbucks and intervene. Kind of reminds me of one time I saw somebody getting shot in the damn McDonald's drive-thru. Crazy stuff, folks. Crazy stuff. So real quick, before I go too far, I did want to mention, just provide a couple little updates on the channel here. In about a month, I'm going to be taking one of these Wednesdays off. Not sure what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to just move it to Thursday, but that might not be possible. So we might need to skip a Wednesday show in December. I believe it's the 13th. This is related to everything going on with my diet and everything, which, progress report. I've now plateaued at 262 again. So still working at it, still counting the calories, still plan on continuing to lose and continuing to count calories, but yeah, and going to the gym and getting my exercise. But that's the update on the diet right now. Plateaued at 262, but still grinding away. Almost at that 40-pound mark. Since what was that? That would have been September 18th that my diet started. September 18th, and now here we are, not quite 2 months later, and I'm almost at the 40-pound mark. So surely I can get down to my goal weight is 240 by December 13th. That's my goal date there. But it's going to be hard. I'm going to have a skip day for Thanksgiving. Gotta have my American holiday giant fat person meal. Excuse me. By the way, behind me, my current read is Superman's Funeral for a Friend. I just got done actually reading, since my last show, I got done reading the Man of Steel Volume 4, and then jumped right into Death of Superman. Got that read Sunday and Monday, and now we're on Funeral for a Friend. I'm about 3/4 of the way done with it. I'm hoping I can burn through a lot of this Death and Return of Superman saga here in the next few days. So be looking for potentially a review on the whole saga, potentially on the Saturday show. But yeah, we still have a few news stories going, so please stay tuned. I'm not going to be rambling about myself too much here. Let's go ahead and look at this news story from the New York Post. Porn star's pet python bites partner's penis in a horror scene, blood everywhere. This one belongs on OnlyFans. An Australian porn star named Danny Tabello is opening up to her followers after a traumatic incident where her giant pet snake attacked a male scene partner in the privates. I want to introduce you to Betty. She's my Centralian carpet python. She's about 8 foot long. I've never had an issue with her biting or anything until today, the shapely beauty admitted in an Instagram video posted Wednesday that shows the snake wrapped around her neck. DeBello and a pal had just filmed some steamy content together when things reportedly went from sexy to scary. So earlier I had a friend over, we shot a video. Once we were finished doing that, he jumped in the shower, but he did mention he wanted to hold my pet snake afterwards, the actress revealed. After coming out of the shower, DeBello placed the snake around her unwitting friend's neck and headed to the bathroom to get washed up. I give her, she's at least a 5. Oh, look, here's the dang video. Let's watch the video.
So these things never happened to me, but boy, do I have a story for you. First, I just want to introduce Betty. She's my Centralian carpet python. Say hi, Betty. She's about 8 foot long, and I've never had an issue with her biting or anything like that until today. So earlier, I had a.
By the way, apologies for the Whoopi Goldberg on screen.
My other page. Once we were finished doing that, he jumped in the shower, but he did mention that he wanted to hold one of my pet snakes afterwards. So whilst he was showering, I went and grabbed Betty from her enclosure. And once he got out, I placed Betty around his neck, just how she is on me now. And I turned around to walk away, and he let out this massive scream. And I've turned around and seen that Betty is holding onto his and he's tried to pull her off it.
Uh-oh.
And she hasn't let go.
Don't pull! Don't pull! Oh, no!
We managed to get Betty off him. I pushed
Oh,
her
no!
back
Why
to
would
her
you pull?
enclosure, and there was blood everywhere, so we cleaned all of that up. I did check to make sure that there was no little teeth left in it. Sometimes when pythons bite, they do lose some teeth. So I just made sure there was none in there. Cleaned him all up with some antibacterial cream and made it all.
Oh, dear Lord. Oh, dear Lord. I mean, why do we need to see more pictures of her? Like, I'd rather just see more pictures of the snake. I mean, look, she's not ugly. She's okay looking. I mean, she's got all right breasts, but no, I want to see more pictures of the snake. Why do we need to continue to see her in her underwear? Her commenters expressed their shock in the comments section. Stuff of nightmares, crying smiley, one said. Ouch, I hope he is all right, and Betty is all right too, said another. The post reached out to DeBello for comment. Wow. I don't want to know what this link leads to. Should we? Anyone out there, let me know in the chat. Should I click this link? Should I click this link right here that says pythons sometimes leave their teeth in things? I'm going to do it. Let's do it. Let's see what this leads to. Massive python drags 5-year-old Australian boy into pool. Okay, well, see, they keep showing unrelated videos. I mean, just snake-related videos that aren't due to the story. A 5-year-old Australian boy Australian, is that how you say it? Australian boy was dragged into a swimming pool by a python in Australia and miraculously survived the terrifying attack when his grandpa choked the beast. Go away. Bo Blake was playing in the yard of his family's home in Byron Bay, New South Wales, Wednesday when the 10-foot-long snake emerged from the bushes in the garden and bit the boy as he was walking around the edge of the pool. How long ago was this? November 2022. Okay. The reptile, thought to be a carpet python, oh, really? Tightly wrapped itself around Australia. Why? Why does Australia have to exist? If you were to ask Nick Rekieta, he'd say it doesn't. Anyway, wrapped itself around the tot's leg and pulled him into the water. It was instant. I saw a big black shadow come out of the bush, and before they hit the bottom of the pool, it had completely wrapped around his leg, Bo's father, Ben Blake, told radio station 3AW. So here's the snake. It doesn't look super big, but that could definitely fuck up a 5-year-old. I mean, they're pretty strong. Snakes are pretty strong for how thin they can be. Like if that was a man's arm, he would be weak as fuck and couldn't even lift a 5-year-old. But that snake there, that's like all muscle. Like that could kick somebody's ass. A tragedy was averted when the boy's 76-year-old grandfather jumped into the pool and brought him to the surface. I'm not a little lad. I had him released within 15 to 20 seconds, Blake bragged. The father held on to the snake about 10 minutes before releasing it back into the garden. Wait, back into the yard where the kid's going to be playing again? Bo was later treated for puncture wounds to his leg caused by the python's teeth. Once we cleaned up the blood and told him he was not going to die because it wasn't poisonous, he was actually pretty good, Dad said. Bo, who was described by his father as an absolute trooper, Trooper? Should be 2 O's in trooper. Anyway, was kept home from school the next day to be monitored for possible signs of infection. The child's mother wrote in a Facebook post that the family was very shaken up but grateful that all is okay. She warned fellow parents that the unthinkable can happen. Blake said his father has encountered about 10 snakes on his property over 36 years. Australia, 36 years, 10 snakes. That's like 1 every 3 years, right? That's more than 1 every 3 years. No, that's... Yeah, that's about 1 every 3 to 4 years. Australia is home to 15 species of pythons. These snakes are not venomous and kill their prey by coiling their bodies around it before suffocating and swallowing it. Having gone through the terrifying ordeal that nearly resulted in his son's death, Ben Blake spoke matter-of-factly of living in close proximity to a dizzying array of dangerous predators. Look, it's where we live. It's Australia, he said. Look, it's where we live. It's Australia. Oh my God. I'm glad I found this story, even if it's a year old. Holy crap. Okay. So yeah, we got snakes biting penises. Wait, where was this chick located? Hang on. I got to find out where she's located now. Because if she's Australian, then we have a problem. She is Australian. And oh my God. Yeah, I'm not following her in. Oh my God, her Instagram is something else. Yeah. She's a thought. She's definitely a thought. Dear Lord. Yeah, so this is Australia, folks. Australia. Don't have your willy out in Australia. You might just get some teeth left in it. Anyway, so today, in other news, today was an earnings day, earnings reports for the major Hollywood studios. And, Disney was better than we thought it would be. But Disney also has like they're doing some severe cost cutting. That's what their report kind of told, is that they made a higher than expected profit, but that it came through some heavy cost cutting measures. Warner Brothers, on the other hand, let's read some news for Warner Brothers from Reuters here. Warner Brothers Discovery warns that Hollywood strikes may impact its film slate. Warner Brothers Discovery warned Thursday that uncertainty over the dual strikes of Hollywood writers and actors could impact the timing of its film slate and its ability to produce and deliver content. The studio said its models anticipate members of the Writers Guild of America and the Film Actors Guild would return to work in early September, a prediction that sources say is optimistic, given the angry tenor of remarks from picket lines. "We're in some uncharted waters," CEO David Zaslav told investors, adding, "We all got to fight to get this resolved. The strikes have disrupted production of scripted TV series for the fall TV season and halted work on films as workers battle over pay in the streaming era. FAG actors are prevented from promoting upcoming films, which could imperil the timing of fall releases. Toy maker Hasbro has also flagged a hit from the strike on Thursday." The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, which represents Warner Brothers Discovery and other major studios in negotiations, asked to meet on Friday with the Writers Guild to discuss the possibility of resuming talks. The writers have been on strike since May the 2nd. Meanwhile, Film Actors Guild President Fran Drescher appeared Thursday at picket lines in New York to rally members of the guild who walked off the job on July 14th. Remarks outside Paramount's global offices, she said, "I promise you that we're not going to compromise. This is a seminal deal, and there is no turning back." Warner Brothers Discovery revenue took a hit in the second quarter due to soft box office, including the underperformance of The Flash. Studio revenue came in at $2.58 billion, far below estimates of $3.21 billion, according to Visible Alpha. The company also incurred marketing costs for its Barbie film, which it released to huge box office success. Although the company is riding a pink wave from success of Barbie's theatrical run, other features and dramas Warner Brothers Discovery is well known for are on ice until negotiations pick back up, Third Bridge analyst Jamie Lonely said. Shares of the company, forged by the union of Warner and Discovery, closed up 2.7% on Thursday, having risen to $12.89 a share, having risen nearly a third so far in 2023. Overall, second quarter revenue came in at $10.36 billion, missing the estimates of $10.44 billion, according to Refinitiv data. The direct-to-consumer unit posted a revenue of $2.73 billion, beating estimates of $2.48 billion. It lost 1.8 million subscribers, more than estimates of 1.1 million. Total global subscribers for HBO Max and Discovery Plus stood at 95.8 million at the end of the quarter. Under Zaslav, Warner Brothers Discovery has been seeking to run its direct-to-consumer business more efficiently. The CEO said on Thursday that the streaming business is, quote, tracking well ahead of our financial projections, generating positive core earnings on the first half of 2023. Company executives said on a post-earnings call that they were confident the company will achieve $4 billion in total synergies much sooner than previously thought. They said they see a, quote, clear path to the company achieving $5 billion or more in total synergies through 2024 and beyond. The company cut expenses by 16%, helping reduce its net loss to $1.24 billion from a loss of $3.42 billion a year earlier. Free cash flow came in, beating estimates. The company expects full year free cash flow in the range of 4.5 to 5 billion. Okay, so all of this here, like everything after, the part where it says losing subscribers, like the rest of this is all bullshit. Because like up here, they talk about like they're not going to have content. They don't have anything. They're going to have to stagger their income streams. They're going to have to stagger their releases. You think they're going to get new subscribers if they're not producing any decent new content, scripted content? This is going to be, like last time around when everything was competition shows, reality shows, and unscripted bullshit, allegedly. Excuse me. So yeah, Warner Brothers, they're going to continue to fuck up, and they're going to continue to lose money. And I don't blame the Film Actors Guild for not coming to work. Fuck it. Let them die. So we have a funny video I want to watch. This is from Ryan Long Comedy on X. I wanted to kind of watch this video with y'all here for a minute.
Who do you think has a nicer set of jugs, Elizabeth Warren or Kamala Harris?
I'll go with the white chick.
Do you go with the white titties? Why is it that you take?
Elizabeth Warren has nicer titties than Kamala. Wow, folks.
Like the white gazumbas over the black titties.
Her ideology is not breast-like.
I actually thought I entered a time warp and went back
100. She thought she entered a time warp and went back 100 years.
100 years because I could not believe somebody was asking this question.
What question?
Oh, shit. Concern trolling. I'm sorry. I slammed my vape down on the desk. That was probably loud for you guys, huh? I'm sorry. The concern trolling. Holy shit. Holy shit, the concern trolling. Cheers, folks, man. And cheers to Ryan Long, man. This is great. This is golden, man. You gotta love to see the man on the street shit wind up with craziness like this. You just have to love it. Cheers to Ryan Long.
Jen?
Yeah, you said who's got the nicer titties, Elizabeth Warren or Kamala Harris?
What did you think on the answer to that question?
I don't have an answer to that question.
I don't have an answer. Oh, shit. Everybody's got an answer. I mean, you know. We all know.
To pick between the two sets of gazumbas.
By the question. No, that
too
mental illness can come in pairs.
Of titties or
Phenomena.
what were you saying about a pair?
Like that you guys are paired together in this absurd I'm an anti-porn activist, as a matter of fact, but you're not going to get an interview from me about the subject because I want.
What's your favorite anti-porn? Is it people's ants?
Anti-porn. Okay, and so here's Ryan Long's tour dates on the screen. We're not going to belabor it, but
Your mother would be very ashamed you're doing this kind of work.
His mother. Okay, now we got to do this. Okay, so I'm going to bring this down for just a second. Elizabeth Warren. I'm probably going to get, oh no. Something about nude pagan rituals. Elizabeth Warren participating in nude pagan rituals. Okay. Okay, anything with her in a t-shirt. This is horrible. I'm sorry, folks. I got to do it. Oh, come on. No. This is horrible. Nope. There's just nothing. Like, she literally is wearing a jacket at all times. This is horrible. Wearing a jacket or wearing black, and like you can't see. I'm sorry. This is bad. This is bad. So this is the closest. This is probably the closest we have. Is this? I don't even know what this is, but some foreign website. She's got BLM on the counter behind her. But this is the closest we have. We don't really have boobs in any of these photos because they're always covered by a jacket, and she's always wearing black. So there's that. Okay, and then so let's go to Kamala. Okay, so here we have Kamala. Like I gotta say, like look at this one. Like she's wearing a jacket, but at least you can see him, right? You got to go with Kamala, right? I mean, look, the whole mental exercise is vomit inducing, but you got to go with Kamala, right? Anybody out there? Oh, okay. Sanglet86 says, let's do the time warp again. Cheers, brother. Welcome to the stream. So, yeah, Brian Long, man. You have some interesting tastes in what do you call it? Mental exercises. All right, so here's a video from Clown World on Twitter. As always, I like to get a lot of my content from Clown World. That's an amazing Twitter account. So let's look at this next video from Clown World here.
Can you explain what an incel is? So an incel is just like.
Hang on.
Can you explain what an incel is? So an incel is just like someone.
So look at that. Look at that person. You know, I came on this stream a couple months ago and I talked about my unhealthy addiction to food. But knowing that people like this exist always made me feel better.
Who is involuntarily celibate. That loser sitting on Reddit for 23 hours a day with Cheetah dust and empty Mountain Dew cans all.
Wait a minute. You're going to criticize someone else's lack of activity and diet. Oh fucking K. Oh fucking K. Oh fucking K.
All around them. And it just has a real stank smell.
Oh, you're going to criticize the way someone else smells. As if there's not like necrotic tissue down in this fupa area. Like, what? What
is involved with these people? Because I'm just going to paint you an image, and like the fedora is a little crusty.
The fedora is crusty. What about these beads? How much crust do you think is under these beads here? When's the last time do you think she was able to get these beads around that fist?
And the beard, the neck beard is strong, but the facial hair is weak.
Neck beard.
And there's a bald spot in the back, and you could just
bald spot in the back. Look at her hair. Surely it's thinning out in places. I mean, look at it.
And you can just see the fedora.
Oh, look at the tattoo. She's got a tattoo in her arm pad.
Just hanging on for dear life. And he's sitting there.
Woman. Oh, dear Lord. Talk about things hanging on for dear life. That chair is hanging on for dear life. It's a wicker chair. How is that even possible? How is this wicker chair even... Holy crap.
Muttering under his breath about how, like, Jessica Alba was ugly.
Right.
You know,
literally.
like...
I mean, look. Look. Jessica Alba's ugly. Don't get me wrong. Jessica Alba has been hot in a lot of things. She has some hotness to her. But let's face it, like, she's gotten older. She's taken some more kind of washed up type roles, and she doesn't look like she did in the Fantastic Four days, right? Like, Fantastic Four, Jessica Alba was hot. And for the thing we saw on the screen, and look, this girl here, like the hyena smile here that you're seeing, like, I'm flabbergasted. I'm flabbergasted. The gall at two women who look like this. Like, look, she's not even wearing shoes. She's not even wearing shoes. She's clearly trying to appeal to foot fetishists because her face is just a wreck. So let's get the guys who like feet to subscribe to me because my face is a wreck. So to be complaining about other guys complaining about Jessica Alba when you're not Jessica Alba, neither of you are fucking Jessica Alba. You aren't even close. And Jessica Alba is ugly. So what does that say?
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about.
And you
Okay. So enough of these two. Enough of these two. Jeebus. Okay. So we're down to the last story for the main program here. And it's going to be somewhat related to what's going on in our government here. So this will kind of take us into some of the debate coverage, because I do want to talk a little bit about the debate coverage just a minute before we for a few minutes before we switch over. But let's look at this here. Let's watch this video from the New York Post and maybe read the article, as long as it's not a verbatim word for word copy of what's going on in the video. So the headline is House Republicans subpoena Hunter and James Biden in impeachment inquiry. Okay, we don't need the music. Representative James Comer has signed subpoenas on behalf of the House Oversight Committee, demanding closed-door testimony from the President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, and the president's brother. Okay, so wait a minute. So why did they make this a video? Screw it. I'm just going to read the article. James 73 and Hunter 53 regularly involved their powerful relative in their business relationships during his 8-year vice presidency and in the years that followed, including ventures involving China and Ukraine. The House Oversight Committee has followed the money and built a record of evidence revealing how Joe Biden knew, was involved, and benefited from his family influence peddling schemes, said committee chairman James Comer, Republican of Kentucky. Now, the House Oversight Committee is going to bring in members of the Biden family and their associates to question them on this record of evidence, end quote. The committee set a December 13th date for Hunter Biden to appear for an interview and a December 6th date for James Biden to appear. Jesus Christ. That's the date I'm going to be skipping my show. Oh, I'm probably going to have to stream that Thursday. I've got to cover this. December 6th, that's a week earlier. If either refuses to comply, the panel could recommend criminal charges for contempt of Congress. The GOP-led committee also subpoenaed the testimony of Biden family associate Rob Walker and requested voluntary testimony from James Biden's wife, Sarah, Hunter Biden's ex-girlfriend / sister-in-law. Wait. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot he was banging his... Oh, sheesh. He was banging his sister-in-law. Yeah, that's right. And ex-girlfriend / sister-in-law Haley Biden and his current wife Melissa Cohen, in addition to former Biden family associate Tony Bobulinski and Haley Biden's sister Elizabeth Secundi. Unlike the many lies President Biden told the American people about his family business, bank records don't lie, Comer said. Quote, these records reveal how the Bidens sold Joe Biden around the world to benefit the Biden family, including Joe Biden himself, to the detriment of U.S. interests, unquote. Comer and the House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan of Ohio, whose panel is part of the impeachment inquiry, wrote to Hunter Biden attorney Abby Lowell that his testimony is needed in order to determine whether the president should be removed from office. These committees are investigating whether sufficient grounds exist to draft articles of impeachment against President Biden for consideration by the full House, Comer and Jordan wrote. Quote, the committees require your client's testimony to provide evidence that is relevant to the impeachment inquiry. In particular, your client has personal knowledge of whether and how President Biden has been involved in his family's business dealings, unquote, the chairman added. Quote, your client is also in a position to provide information to whether, among other things, Joe Biden as vice president and or president took any action or affected any change in government policy because of money or other things of value provided to himself or his family, including whether he asked then Vice President Biden to intervene in a Ukrainian investigation of a company that paid your client substantial sums of money, or 2, abused his office of public trust by providing foreign interests with access to him and his office in exchange for payments to his family or him, or 3, abused his office of public trust by knowingly participating in a scheme to enrich himself or his family by giving foreign interests the impression that they would receive access to him and his office in exchange for payments to his family or him. This deposition will allow your client to provide answers about what services he and others provided in return for the millions of dollars the committees have identified and whether they were connected to the public office held by President Biden. Hunter Biden wrote in a January 2019 message retrieved from his former laptop that he had to give, quote, half of his income to Joe Biden, and the Oversight Committee in May identified 9 family members who allegedly received foreign funds. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said at her regular briefing Wednesday that the subpoenas were premised on, quote, a smear campaign, and that Comer was conducting a, quote, baseless investigation. So, quote, this is an investigation that has gone on for a year now and has turned up zero evidence of wrongdoing by the president because there is none, she said. Representatives for Hunter did not immediately respond to the Post's request for comment. James Biden and Walker did also did not immediately respond to emails seeking comment. It is possible that Hunter Biden would decline to answer many questions even if he does appear, due to the fact that special counsel David Weiss is expected to refile criminal charges against him over the roughly $2 million in unpaid taxes on foreign income from 2014 to 2019. The first son walked away in July from a probation-only plea deal for tax fraud. During his 2020 campaign, Biden repeatedly said he, quote, never talked business with his family members, but evidence has emerged that he actually interacted with their associates from China, Kazakhstan, Mexico, Russia, and Ukraine. Comer recently subpoenaed bank records showing that James Biden paid his brother $40,000 in 2017 and $200,000 in 2018 using checks labeled loan repayment that Republicans said directly impacted the president in benefiting from foreign dealings. The oversight chairman said the 2017 sum was from, quote, laundered China originating funds, and the 2018 payment from James's receipt of $200,000 from a troubled U.S. hospital provider, which the first brother had promised to connect with a Middle Eastern investor. The White House said that there's evidence the transfers were indeed loans, though Comers say the money transferred to James Biden actually came from a law firm associated with multiple Biden relatives, clouding the picture. Comer's investigation has also turned up additional evidence of Joe Biden interacting with his relatives' business partners, though Democrats have dismissed the information as merely showing the elder Biden was a caring family member. Yeah, so caring that did $200,000 to the big guy, right? Former Hunter Biden associate Devin Archer told the Oversight Committee in July that Joe Biden was on speakerphone for roughly 20 of his son's business meetings and that Hunter and two executives from the Ukrainian gas company Burisma Holdings called then Vice President Biden from Dubai in December 2015. Comer is investigating an array of allegations, including an unproven FBI's claim that Burisma owner Mykola Shlovinsky revealed in 2016 that he was coerced into paying Joe and Hunter Biden $10 million in bribes to help force out the country's top prosecutor. Joe Biden also dined with a rep from Burisma, which paid Hunter $1 million a year to serve on its board as his father steered U.S. policy in Ukraine, and that was in April 2015 in Washington. A pair of Chinese ventures involving Hunter Biden has also come under scrutiny. Joe met for coffee in Beijing with Hunter's business partner Jonathan Lee in less than 2 weeks before he and the now first son launched the Chinese state-backed investment fund BHR Partners, in which Hunter held a 10% stake through at least part of his dad's term as president. In a second Chinese business deal with CEFC China Energy, Joe Biden allegedly met with his son and brother's associates. And in May 2017, email was referred as the big guy due to a 10% cut. Sorry, this is a little wordy, and we've covered a lot of this on the show before. Hunter invoked his powerful dad in a July 2017 text demanding that a China-based CEFC associate follow through with a business deal, writing that he was, quote, sitting with my father. Within 10 days of that threat, $5.1 million flowed into Biden-linked accounts following an initial $1 million tranche in March 2017, less than 2 months after Joe Biden completed his vice presidency. Hunter launched a new career as an artist shortly after his father had entered the White House and reportedly has sold at least $1.3 million of his novice artworks. The Oversight Committee is seeking information on those buyers. One of them reportedly is Elizabeth Hirsch Naftali, who was able to score many visits to the Biden White House and a presidential appointment to a prestigious board. So, They had to go through the whole fucking history, and I'm sorry I read the whole damn thing, but essentially what we're going to have is December 6th, we're going to have Biden's brother, and December 13th, we're going to get Hunter Biden to appear in front of the Oversight Committee about the big guy's money. The big guy's money, and whether or not he got paid pay for play type situations, whether they were bribes or influence. I guess the term they're using in the media is influence peddling, right? Because it's not completely a bribe. It's just we'll get you in the same room, right? You're not paying him to do anything. You're just paying him to get in the room with him. Not a bribe. It's influence peddling. Okay, so we're about 9 minutes away from the debate starting here. I want to take just a few minutes. Okay, so my dinner is going to be ready here in a few minutes. I have a video that I'm going to play. I'm going to take a couple breaks throughout, and I'm going to play a video when I do that. But before we get in there, I want to just kind of mention. So I'm drinking the whiskey now. I will not be drinking whiskey during the debate. Let me go ahead and see if I can bring this up here. Let me go ahead and bring the debate stream up, or the channel, whatever. Sorry, folks. Okay, guide. You see, it's probably going to be on Fox News since it's a Republican or Fox Business. It's not on Fox News channel. It's probably going to be on Fox Business channel. So, no, it's not on Fox. Wait, okay, hang on. Sorry. Bear with me, folks. NBC. It's going to be on NBC. Okay, so is it on MSNBC or is it on regular NBC? I doubt it's going to be on regular NBC, is it? Yeah, it is. It's going to be on regular NBC. Wait a minute. What? Okay. Okay, well. Okay, I was already on that channel. Okay, cool. So we're going to do that. We're going to be doing the debate. Let me go ahead. I was working on an overlay. So if you could bear with me just another minute. I was working on an overlay for a drinking game. Are y'all interested in that? People seem to do this. I know Crowder likes to do it. I know he's currently streaming. He's about to kick off his stream for the debate. But he's a little more conservative. I'm a little more libertarian. I'm a little less biased towards certain conservative issues. So, if you want to stay here and you want to get the libertarian point of view, you can. Otherwise, there are plenty of conservatives streaming this thing. But I'm trying to come up with another couple things here to put in the drinking game. Let's see here. Make the okay, one more. And of course, my phone starts ringing, and it's a scam caller. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so yeah, still. You know what? Let me go ahead and play this video. Why is that still open? Let me go ahead and play this video for you folks so that it's not completely dead air while I do this here. So this is from Foundering One on X. This song came out like back in March, and I found it rather amusing back then. So yeah, go give Foundering on X, Foundering One. Go give him a shout out. He's been producing a lot of politically related like swing music songs. And they're pretty cool. I like them. And this is my favorite one. So let's check this out here.
From Copenhagen, a mermaid maiden with hair as red as summer's end. To bat her race, they're trying to replace. Hey, look, now she's an African. These Disney zombified IPs go woke, cause they've run out of ideas. Bye-bye, princess, high queen androgyny. We see ya, we're starting to notice all this wokeness is bogus, so everything woke turns to shit. A poor Mr. Tolkien said, what are you smoking? Not even Middle Earth is safe. The elves and fairies are non-binary, and Gandalf's pronouns are Zemze. And that galaxy far, far away's got Mary Susan. Now Luke is gay like Dumbledore, but they still want more than JK. Said, hey, you're a dude, not a damsel. Well, damn it, I'm canceled. Everything woke turns to shit. a black Tinkerbell. They might as well a Lost Boys and Girls in Peter Pan. A man that's selling Hershey's is telling you he's a gal. Now bow, cow, tow, and how I guess Augustus Gloop ain't fat. And Velma sucks ass with no Scooby snacks. It's no accident, it's done intentionally. It's too late, we've plunged straight into madness. And now babies, we're dragging. Yes, everything woke always goes broke. Everything woke turns to shit. When all the women are strong and brave and men are cowards and depraved, it's how they keep us all enslaved, misplacing all our rage and blame. Your neighbor thinks another way. Report post haste, collect your pay. It ain't right or left when you've got no rights left. We try to tell you you're hardly rebelling with that garbage you're selling. Everything woke. Everything woke. Everything woke.
Sorry about the lag, folks. Okay, so let me know if, like, the next time I'm going to have to play that again, whether it might not even be that. I guess that's what I'm asking. Should I play that again? Should I play another thing from the Foundering? Or should I play that one? I mean, he's got kind of a couple newer ones on here that are like super recent. So let me know. Should you want me to play that one again, or should I? Oh yeah, here we go. I got a good one. We'll play this one. Okay, we'll play this one next time I need to take a break. I'm still kind of looking here. Okay, yeah. So yeah, probably about the halfway mark of the debate, I'm gonna have to run up and grab my dinner, and I might have to use the restroom before then. So yeah, I'm probably gonna be taking two more breaks before the end of the debate. Which, let's see, we're still not quite at the start of the debate yet. It's 6:59. Let me just go ahead and say, if you're leaving the stream to go over to Crowder or to go to another debate watch, or you're just done with my show because you don't want to watch the debate, I want to thank you for coming. Please click that like button, share this off platform, click the follow or subscribe, depending on which platform you're on. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Hit the bell for notification if you're on YouTube. But really, try to watch me on Rumble. Try to follow me on Rumble. If you're watching me on YouTube, please, we need more people on Rumble. Make Rumble your number one video streaming platform. I'm not paid by Rumble. Rumble don't tell me to say that. I'm not even monetized on Rumble. But, we need more people on these alternatives because YouTube censors people. I mentioned Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder had his whole trans manifesto stream pulled off of YouTube. So here we are. We're in the age of censorship. And when you have platforms like Rumble who will let me speak, who will let you speak, cheers to Rumble. Cheers to Rumble for being Rumble and being there. By the way, I don't know if you've heard the news. Rumble has announced that they're going to release a streaming platform. So, Rumble is a streaming platform, but they're going to release a streaming software. So, kind of like StreamYard or OBS or StreamMe, one of these, or Streamlabs. Rumble's going to be releasing their own. Allegedly, they're claiming it's not only going to be free, which is amazing, but you're also going to be able to stream to multiple platforms, and you're going to be able to have guests, which StreamYard charges $25 a month for that. So, that minimum. I mean, they have higher plans, and you can kind of trim that down if you buy a yearly subscription. But if you buy the monthly subscription, it's $25 a month. And so I'm hyped. I'm loving the idea that that Rumble is going to allow people to do it for free. And we now have the debate starting.
ABC's Meet the Press. Hello, I'm Hugh Hewitt, host of Salem Radio's The Hugh
Douchebags.
Douchebags.
Lester fucking Holt.
Caucuses when Republican primary voters will begin to determine their party's nominee for president. Tonight, we'll question 5 candidates seeking that nomination on how they're best prepared to be commander-in-chief.
So you guys want the drinking game overlay here?
Impacting Americans across the country. We have 2 hours for a serious debate on the issues that matter most to Republican voters. Candidates will have 1 minute and 30 seconds for answers and the opportunity for a closing statement. Follow-ups will be at the discretion of all of us at the table.
Let me see if I can get a layout here that's better.
Invoking a candidate's name or policy does not necessarily mean the mentioned candidate is entitled to a response. We want to caution all the candidates not to interrupt or speak over your fellow debaters. If you talk over each other, the voters can't hear you. And given the critical issues we're facing specifically on the world stage, we want everyone to hear every word you have to say. Continued interruptions may result in loss of additional questions. And to our audience, please hold your applause so that the candidates can be heard. With that said, let's have a good debate. All right, our first question, the opening question, is one for all of you. Donald Trump is the first ex-president in more than 100 years to run for the White House again, and he remains popular among Republican primary voters as his legal challenges mount. Governor DeSantis, let me begin with you on this one. Speak to Republican voters who are supporting Donald Trump. Why should you and not him be the Republican nominee to face Joe Biden a year from now?
This country is in trouble, and the elites that have put us here, they don't care about you. They don't care that you're having to grapple with higher grocery prices or have higher gas prices. They don't care that your family's less secure because of the open border that's allowed drugs and even terrorists to come into this country. Well, I care. I am not going to sit idly by and let this country continue its downward spiral. We need leadership, and we need it now. I'll take the hits. I'll take the arrows. I'll take the slings, because ultimately it's not about me. It's about you. I will fight for you. I will make sure to lead this country's revival, and I will win for you and your family. Actions speak louder than words. We don't have time for excuses, and it's not something that we're going to be able to have all these distractions. As a veteran, I will get the job done. Now, if you look where we are now, it's a lot different than where we were in 2016. And Donald Trump's a lot different guy than he was in 2016. He owes it to you to be on this stage and explain.
So here we go. Insults Trump.
Chance. He should explain why he didn't have Mexico pay for the border wall. He should explain why he racked up so much debt. He should explain why he didn't drain the swamp. And he said Republicans were going to get tired of winning. Well, we saw last night, I'm sick of Republicans losing. In Florida, I showed how it's done. 1 year ago here, we want a historic victory, including a massive landslide right here in Miami-Dade County. That's how we have to do it.
Bullshit.
So I promise you this, as the nominee next November, I'll get the job done, and as president, I will deliver.
Your time is up. Let me turn to Ambassador Haley.
So I want to know who he endorsed that won last night.
Let me turn to Ambassador Haley. Why you and not the former president?
Well, I think you look at the fact that we're almost $34 trillion in debt. 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 50% of American families can't afford diapers. 1 in 6 American families can't pay their utility bills. You have parents who are worried about what's being said or taught to their child in the classroom. There's no transparency. We have anti-Semitism all over our college campuses, and students feel unsafe. You've got an open border where terrorists can come through, and we've got wars happening all over us, and there are dangers around us. You know, everybody wants to talk about President Trump. Well, I can talk about President Trump. I can tell you that I think he was the right president at the right time. I don't think he's the right president now. I think that he put us $8 trillion in debt, and our kids are never going to forgive us for that. I think the fact that he used to be right on Ukraine and foreign issues, now he's getting weak in the knees and trying to be friendly again. I think that we've got to go back to the fact that we can't live live in the past. We can't live in other headlines. We've got to start focusing on what's going to make America strong and proud. And that's what I'm focused on doing.
I'd rather make
Let's
America
sure we
great
pay down
again.
our debt. I think we need an accountant in the White House. Let's make sure that we have transparency in the classroom. As a mom, I know what that means. Let's make sure we secure our borders so that our families are safe. Let's get crime down, because our families want to know that they can be safe no matter where they go.
That's the second mention of the border, and they haven't talked about fentanyl. I'm surprised.
A military needs to know we have our back, and we need to make sure that America is strong.
Ambassador, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Let me just caution the audience. Let's not go down this road. We've asked you to please, keep restraining yourselves, and it would be helpful so we can hear the candidates, because these are important issues, and the voters want and need to hear them. Mr. Ramaswamy, let me turn to you. Please make your case. Why should you be the nominee and not the former president?
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here, and I am upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It was a cancer in the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave.
Yes, fuck Ronna McDaniel.
Last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign, I will yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there cheering for losing in the Republican Party. Think about who's moderating this debate. This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about, bringing more people into our party. You think the Democrats,
Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk.
Democrats would actually hire Greg Gutfeld to host a Democratic debate? They wouldn't do it. And so the fact of the matter is, Kristen, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Yes. The Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years. Was that real, or was that Hillary Clinton made up disinformation? Answer the question. Go. Mr. Ross, this is how we get our country back.
Oh, snap. This is how we get our country back.
Media rigged the 2016 election. They rigged the 2020 election with the Hunter Biden laptop story. And they're going to rig this election.
Your time is up.
Accountability.
Let me turn to Governor Christie. Why you?
Woo! Ramaswamy coming in hot at NBC.
Let's not do this. Let's let the candidates speak. Governor Christie, why you and not former President Trump?
Well, Lester, look, you said it at the beginning of the debate. We are dealing with extraordinarily important issues facing this country right now.
Here we go.
We have our greatest ally in the Middle East under fire from a terrorist group that has committed to wiping them and every Jewish person in this world off the map.
Off the map.
We have
You're on the map
with Vladimir Putin, a communist KGB dictator who wants to put the old band back together. He's starting in Ukraine, and he's going to move to the Baltics and Poland after that. We have inflation in this country that is choking every American family that wants to try to rise up and give their children a better life. And tonight, we need to decide which president is going to be the one to tackle the big issues, who's going to make this country look once again, not just inward, but look outward at the world. And say America is the country, the indispensable nation that makes this a safer world. And in a safer world, American innovation, American hard work has always been the thing that has driven our country to greater things. I'm going to be the president who will do those big things. We're not going to be small, and I'll say this about Donald Trump. Anybody who's going to be spending the next year and a half of their life focusing on keeping themselves out of jail and courtrooms cannot lead this party or this country.
Right,
and it needs to be said plainly.
Governor, thank you.
Can't keep himself out of courtrooms because of the Democrats.
President Trump can't win. Make your case to Republican voters.
Well, certainly. What I would say without any question is that the truth of my life destroys the lies of the radical left. We need a president and a candidate who will actually help our base solidify and attract independent voters into our party. The Great Opportunity Party is now winning back African-American voters and Hispanic voters because we are working on a foundation based on faith. Our nation is facing some deep challenges. It is the loss of faith in this nation that is part of the erosion that we're seeing every single day. It's restoring faith, restoring our Christian values.
I'm not hearing
that
how
will
this
help
is different than
nation
Trump.
once again become the city on the hill. When Ronald Reagan talked about the city on the hill,
mention of Reagan,
he was coming
drink.
from Matthew 5.
Cheers.
When President Lincoln talked about a house divided, that was Mark. Our founding documents speak to the importance of a faith foundation. You don't have to be a Christian for America to work for you, but America does not work without a faith-filled Judeo-Christian foundation. I would be the president that helps us restore faith in God, faith in each other, and faith in our future.
See, I was gonna put Christian in the drinking game,
the policies,
but with
matter. We have to get
with
back
Pence
to being
gone,
a nation
I decided against
that
it.
is, in fact, the city on the hill that believes in each other enough for us to fight
Senator Scott,
for that future.
Senator Scott, thank you. We're going to turn now to the challenges facing the next commander-in-chief. You'll all be fielding questions first from me and the Republican Jewish Coalition, and from Kristen and Hugh.
By the way, I'm done with my
So as we
whiskey,
continue
so I'm
forward,
going straight to water
the
now.
Israel-Hamas war is barely a month old. Tonight, Israeli troops are fighting inside Gaza City with over 200 hostages who remain captive there, and civilian casualties mount inside Gaza. As President of the United States, what would you be urging Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to do at this moment? Governor DeSantis.
I would be telling Bibi, finish the job once and for all with these butchers.
Number one, drink.
Terrorists. They're massacring innocent people. They would wipe every Jew off the globe if they could. He cannot live with that threat right by his country. That Hamas should release every hostage and they should unconditionally surrender. I'm sick of hearing the media. I'm sick of hearing other people blame Israel just for defending itself. We will stand with Israel in word and in deed, in public and in private. And I can tell you, as governor, I actually did something.
This is why for a year now on this program, I said, I don't trust DeSantis with our military.
After the attack, he left them stranded. They couldn't get flights out. So I scrambled resources in Florida. I sent planes over to Israel, and I brought back over 700 people to safety. There could have been more hostages had we not acted. And I'll tell you this, I met the first plane load when they came to Florida, and one of the mothers pointed to a 6-year-old daughter, and she said, my daughter had been saying the last 2 nights, Mommy, I don't want to hear any more bombs, no more rockets. I just want to get back to Florida. So there's a difference between words and deeds. We acted and we saved lives.
Thank you. Ambassador Haley, what would you do? What would you be urging Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to do? Would you consider a humanitarian pause, for example?
The first thing I said to him when it happened was I said, finish them.
There we go.
Them.
Number
and
one,
the reason
drink.
is I worked on this every day when I was at the United Nations. And we have to remember that they have to, 1, eliminate Hamas, 2, support Israel with whatever they need whenever they need it, and 3, make sure we bring our hostages home. We need to be very clear-eyed to know there would be no Hamas without Iran. There would be no Hezbollah without Iran. There would not be the Houthis without Iran. And there wouldn't be the Iranian militias in Syria and Iraq that are trying to hit our military men and women if it hadn't been for Iran. And who is funding Iran right now? China is buying oil from Iran. Russia is getting drones and missiles from Iran, and there is an unholy alliance. We need to be clear-eyed. The last thing we need to do is to tell Israel what to do.
Building drones?
The only thing we should be doing is supporting them and eliminating Hamas. It is not that Israel needs America.
Russia is getting
America
drones
needs
from
Israel. They are
Iran?
the tip of the spear when it comes to this Islamic terrorism, and we need to make sure that we have their backs in that process.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Ramaswamy. Mr. Ramaswamy,
How
any
does that
daylight
work?
between you and the candidates we just heard in this issue on what you would tell the Prime Minister?
Not in terms of what I would tell the Prime Minister, no. In fact, I would go one step further. The founding vision of Israel was based on the idea that they don't want to depend on anybody else's sympathy or direction in defending themselves. So what I would tell Bibi is that Israel has the right and the responsibility to defend itself. I would tell him to smoke those terrorists on his southern border.
I didn't have Vivek in number one.
Smoking the terrorists on our southern border.
But again,
That's his responsibility,
he's not
this
saying
town's
America should do it.
responsibility.
Well, I guess the
That's
others
how we
didn't
move
say.
forward. But I want to be careful.
I take back the previous 2 drinks. If you drank the previous 2 times, it wasn't America.
Corrupt politicians in both parties spent trillions. killed millions, made billions for themselves in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, fighting wars that sent thousands of our sons and daughters, people my age, to die in wars that did not advance anyone's interests, adding $7 trillion to our national debt. And Joe Biden sold off our foreign policy. Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, got a $5 million bribe from Ukraine. That's why we're sending $200 billion back to that same country. The fact of the matter is the Republican Party is not that much better. You have the likes of Nikki Haley, who stepped down from her time at the UN. Bankrupt or in debt was her family. Then she becomes a military contractor. She joins the board of Boeing and otherwise, and is now a multimillionaire. So I think that that's wrong when Republicans do it or Democrats do it. That's the choice we face. Do you want
almost thought we had a number 3 there, but no, she didn't respond.
Or do you want Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels?
All right, Mr.
In which case we've got 2 of them on stage.
Mr. Ramaswamy, thank you. Senator Scott, Senator, same question to you about, you're the president, you're on the phone in the Oval Office with the Prime Minister, you tell him what?
Well, number one, I would tell Prime Minister Netanyahu, not only do you have the responsibility and the right to wipe Hamas off of the map.
Off the map.
We will support you.
Man, I should have put off the map on my
There will be no daylight. But I would change the station a little bit, though, and head back home to America. I would say to President Biden, diplomacy only is a weak strategy. Appeasement leads to war. From President Obama to President Biden, Obama sent millions to Iran. Frankly, President Biden has sent billions to Iran. That is why I've said that there's blood dripping from the hands of President Obama and President Biden. I would tell President Biden with great clarity, if you want to stop the 40+ attacks on military personnel in the Middle East, you have to strike in Iran. If you want to make a difference, you cannot just continue to have
Scott on
strikes
number
in
1.
Syria on warehouses. You actually have to.
But I guess he's advocating Israel too.
And the head of the snake is Iran, and not simply their proxies. In order for us to have a powerful response from America, we have to be in a position of strength. As President of the United States, my foreign policy is simple. You cannot negotiate with evil. You have to destroy it.
Wow.
All right, Senator Scott, thank you. Governor Christie, I want to get you to weigh in here.
That was fucking lethal.
Look, Lester, these problems are so big and serious that the first thing I would say to Prime Minister Netanyahu is pretty simple. America is here, no matter what it is you need at any time, to preserve the state of Israel. Remember that Hamas's main goal is to get rid of Israel. Is to get Israel absolutely off the map. Now, there are 3 things I think I would say to him when he asked for advice. The first I would say is that it is absolutely your obligation to protect the territorial integrity of Israel.
He's repeating himself.
Secondly, to make sure you protect the security and the safety of your people. Every time something happens to compromise either one of those things, it creates greater unrest in the entire region. Second, you must go in and make sure that Hamas can never do this again. The fact is that Israel and their intelligence community failed. They failed here, and they failed the people of the state of Israel. And so we need to work closely and better together to make sure, 1, that they're degraded, and 2, that we know everything that's going on inside the Gaza Strip when it's going on, so that something like this can't happen to kill 1,400 individuals again. And the third thing is to keep your eye on the ball. Make sure that we continue to isolate Iran, work with the reasonable nations in the Middle East, the other Arab nations who want to partner with you, and make sure that we continue to isolate Iran so that their only friends in the world are the part of the evil foursome: China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea.
Governor Christie, thank you very much. We're going to continue in this vein right now with a question from Matthew Brooks, the CEO of the Republican Jewish Coalition, a partner of the Republican
Jewish
National
Coalition.
Committee.
This ought to be good.
Here it is.
Given attacks by Iranian-backed proxy groups on U.S. military bases in Syria and Iraq, attacks that have wounded approximately 24 of our U.S. servicemen, do you support the use of military force by the United States against Iran?
Governor Haley, would you please answer that?
Yes, I'd first like to say they're 5-inch heels, and I don't wear them unless you can run in them.
We got 2 of you on stage.
There we go.
The thing that I will say is I wear heels. They're not for a fashion statement. They're for ammunition. What we need to be doing for Iraq and Syria is, first of all,
Did she just suggest she kicks people in the nuts with her heels?
And that we've allowed almost 100 hits to happen under Biden's watch is unthinkable. We need to understand this is Iran giving the green light, telling them what to do.
Drink for number
and
3.
We shouldn't be doing the tit for tat like what Joe Biden has done.
Like I said,
we
I
need
owed
to
you
go
2.
and take out their infrastructure that they are using to make those strikes with, so they can never do it again. Iran responds to strength. You punch them one and you punch them hard, and they will back off. But what we don't need is Biden falling all over himself to get back in the Iran deal. Him giving $6 billion to get 5 hostages home. Him telling Netanyahu now that he needs a pause or a ceasefire. We don't need him going and sitting there tiptoeing around Iran because he thinks they're going to do something. You don't respond to an enemy and a terrorist with fear. You respond with strength. When you do that, that's when the world pays attention, and that's when Iran stops.
Thank you, Governor DeSantis. If I can continue with you,
I'm going to say the one
drink
drink I owed you left. That was it. That was for her.
In Syria, this time Iranian-linked facility. How far would you go militarily to hold Iran accountable?
Well, first, Matt, thanks for your question, and I appreciate what you've done over the last month. I know it's been very difficult for the community, and appreciate you guys rallying together in difficult times. I actually served in Iraq.
He's doing that because Vivek just insulted him.
We had Al-Qaeda in Iraq. You had Shia militias that were funded by Iran that were killing hundreds and hundreds of U.S. troops. And as Commander-in-Chief, I am not going to put our troops in harm's way unless you're willing to defend them with everything you have. Biden has them out there. They're sitting ducks. He's doing glancing blows. That's just inviting more attacks from the Iranians. I would say you harm a hair on the head of an American service member, and you are going to have hell to pay. We are not just going to sit there and let our service members be sitting ducks, and that's true whether it's Iran or whether it's any country on the world. We have to be strong, and we have to defend the people who defend us.
All right, thank you, Governor. Now our second and final question from
That was
Matthew
pretty
Brooks
close
of the
to
Republican
advocating
Jewish
killing
Coalition.
people, but I
Please
won't.
watch.
I won't call it. Here we go. This guy.
Jewish
again.
students across the country are threatened and under attack. What do you say to Jewish students on college campuses who feel unsafe given the dramatic rise in anti-Semitism?
Throw some fucking balls!
And what do you say to university presidents and college presidents who have not met the moral clarity moment to forcefully condemn Hamas terrorism?
Mr. Ramaswamy, would you like to take that one?
Absolutely. I think the scourge of anti-Semitism across this country, including at places like my alma maters and places like Brooklyn Bridge in New York, it's sad to see, but here's what history teaches us. Anti-Semitism is a symptom of a deeper cancer in a country and a society that is lost, and we are lost. Several years ago, when I wrote my first book, Woke Inc., I was talking about they were chanting death to America, death to white people, death to Christians. Nobody was waking up back then. Now it's even bad. Now they're saying death to Israel and worse. So it is wrong, but we have to get to the root cause here. Now, I think it's really important that we do this through leadership, not censorship. Leadership means fill that void with purpose and meaning. Dilute this wokeism and anti-Semitism to irrelevance. These kids, they have no idea what the heck they're even talking about. When they're siding with Hamas over Israel, they are fools. But I also want to caution here, if we go the direction of Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley, with whom I respectfully disagree on this issue, pro-censorship, telling student groups to disband, mark my words, soon they will say if you question a vaccine and its side effects, you're a bioterrorist. Soon they will say that if you show up at a school board meeting, you're a domestic terrorist. Soon if they say that J6 prisoners should be released, you're an insurrectionist terrorist. So that's where this road ends. We don't quash this with censorship because that creates a worse underbelly. We quell it through leadership by calling it out. These university administrators have lost their way, and we need leadership at the top in the United States of America that restores our founding values and that has no place for this kind of anti-Semitic hate. That's where I stand while respecting our Constitution.
Your time is out. Senator Scott, let me get you to weigh in on what you just heard.
Cool. Wow. Let me just say to every single university president in America, federal funding is a privilege, not a right. Number one.
Oh, so yeah, just have the schools fucking censor them.
Who've come to our country on a visa to a college campus, Your visa is a privilege, not a right. Number 3, any campus that allows
No, but free speech is a
anti-Semitism
fucking
and
right.
hate, to allow students to encourage terrorism, mass murder, and genocide, you should lose your federal funding today, period. To all the students on visas who are encouraging Jewish genocide, I would deport you from those campuses. We have to stand strong with our Jewish Americans. At
Yeah,
the end
good
of the
luck
day,
that
we should
fucking
not
surviving a
have
federal lawsuit.
our Jewish students in a library being told to hide. On our streets in New York, a Jewish citizen has the right to walk on the streets of America with no fear. They have the right to go to college campuses, go to class, and not fear. We will restore that. I started working on anti-Semitism on college campuses in 2017, because even then there was a rise of anti-Semitism on college campuses. We must force the
By the way, the
people
fake hate
off
map
those
is real,
campuses.
y'all.
And frankly,
Thank you. Let me
out of our country.
Let me turn to the Governor DeSantis here. What do you think about what he just said?
I was the first presidential candidate to say, if you are here on a student visa as a foreign national, you're making common cause with Hamas, I'm canceling your visa and I'm sending you home. No questions asked.
Again, good luck
Second,
this surviving a
I have
lawsuit.
friends here in Florida who their kids
The
do not feel
ACLU would
safe
be
even
all
going
over
to
your ass.
university campus at all outside of the state of Florida. You have Jewish students fleeing for their lives at Cooper Union. Joe Biden should have the Department of Justice on these college campuses and holding the universities accountable for civil rights violations. When you should not have money going to these places. I already acted in Florida. We had a group, Students for Justice of Palestine. They said they are common cause with Hamas. They said, we're not just in solidarity, this is what we are. We deactivated them. We're not going to use state tax dollars to fund jihad. No way. And what is Biden doing? Not only is he not helping the Jewish students who are being persecuted, he is launching an initiative to combat so-called Islamophobia. No, it's the anti-Semitism that's spiraling out of control. That is what we have to confront. And as president, I can tell you this, we are not going to stand for this on college campuses any longer.
All right, Governor, thank you. Let me turn to Governor Christie, and considering what he just said, you led a state with a sizable Muslim population. Last month, as you know, a 6-year-old Palestinian-American boy was killed in Illinois by his landlord. His mother was also stabbed more than a dozen times in what has been charged as a hate crime. What do you say to Muslim Americans who are also feeling afraid for their safety right now?
Lester, I'm the only one on the stage who's actually had experience in dealing with this. I was appointed by President Bush to be the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey on September 10th.
We just heard 2 other people say they've had experience with
And
this.
when I took over that job after the September 11th attacks, I had to deal with a situation in our state that was explosive. We're the most ethnically diverse state in this country. And so first, we heard credible reports about Jewish students and synagogues being threatened in our state in the aftermath of 9/11. We made sure that we sent federal agents to those synagogues and we protected them. The same thing should be being done now.
Dancing
At the very same
Jews,
time,
9/11.
I personally went from mosque to mosque in New Jersey and met with the leaders of those mosques and with the members of the mosques. And I said to them, law enforcement is on your side to protect you, regardless of your religion, if you are going to comply with the law. And we developed fabulous relationships with Muslim Americans all across the state of New Jersey, and we stopped any hate crimes that were going on either against Jewish Americans in New Jersey or Muslim Americans in New Jersey. It takes leadership, Lester, to know how to do this. You must work with both sides. Both sides
Yeah, we
need
have
to
a
know
First
it, but
Amendment
let us
right to
never
religion.
have
I mean,
a false moral
this might be
equivalence
like
between
half
Hamas and
of
Hezbollah
one
and
thing
the
I
Jewish
can agree
people.
with him
The
on.
Jewish people stand for right and justice, and Hamas and Hezbollah stand for death.
Governor Christie, thank you. Ambassador Haley,
and then
what do
he
you
just
say
took it
to
over the
Americans who are simply afraid right now in this current environment that we're talking about?
I think you look at the country, and the country is all out of sorts. I think, look at what these kids are dealing with on college campuses. What makes me so angry is not only do you have the kids barricaded in the library, they've said they were going to shoot up the kosher dining hall. You've got kids' dorm rooms who are being set on fire because they have something related to Israel on their doors.
Also be halal?
Person should ever feel in danger like this. And this is what I would say about our college presidents, is if the KKK were doing this, every college president would be up in arms. This is no different. You should treat it exactly the same. Anti-Semitism is just as awful as racism, and we've got to make sure they're protected. And for everybody that's protesting on these college campuses in favor of Hamas,
isn't anti-Semitism a form of racism?
Hamas said death to Israel and death to America. They hate and would kill you too. And the idea that they're talking about genocide for the Jewish people, that's not the values of America. That's not us. We're better than that. We don't need to celebrate terrorists. We don't need to celebrate genocide. We don't need to celebrate violence towards anybody. We need to go back and soul search in our country.
Again, this is a left-right thing.
And we are about taking care of people, not going and making them live in fear because some other terrorist activity says they want to destroy them.
Ambassador, this isn't really a policy issue.
Lester, thank you. This is another question for the entire.
This is a let's rah over
Senator Scott,
what people are protesting about.
The United States has given Ukraine financial and military support since the war began more than 600 days ago. President Zelensky told me on Sunday, if Russia isn't stopped now, quote, the price will be higher for the United States, and Americans would be forced to, quote, send your sons and daughters to defend NATO countries. Senator Scott, where do you stand on more funding for Ukraine?
Well, I certainly have been very supportive of Ukraine. I believe that ultimately we should make sure that the President of the United States states what is America's national vital interest in Ukraine. It is actually in degrading the Russian military. We've been very effective using our resources and our weaponry and the incredibly high price of Ukrainian blood to achieve that objective. Every day we get closer to the degradation of the Russian military, and that's good news. But the American people are frustrated that they do not have a president who reminds us and tells us, where's the accountability? Where are those dollars? How are those dollars being spent? We need those answers for us to continue to see the support for Ukraine. And at the same time, I would say that a package that's been offered by the president for Ukraine and Israel, that's the wrong approach. We need to focus specifically on providing Israel with the $14 billion that they need, so that we show the world.
Did he just shift Ukraine to Israel?
Undeniably standing shoulder to shoulder with Israel. And then as we turn away from that direct support for Israel, we should go to our southern border and close our southern border with the resources necessary. I believe that we have
now he's talking about Mexico
cells in America. Thousands of people have come from Yemen, Iran, Syria, and Iraq. If we are going to deal with the national security emergency at our border, we have to do it now.
Senator Scott, thank you. But just to be very clear, if you were president, if you were in the Oval Office today, would you sign off on more military funding?
Exactly. She asked him the question. He's like, no, I'd give it to Israel.
We have to first have the level of accountability that allows the American people to understand where the resources have gone. Number one. Number two, after we have that responsibility taken care of and accountability, then we have an opportunity to look at the overall strategy that helps us degrade the Russian military while we use our resources and, frankly, he
keeps using this phrase, degrade the Russian military, but he's not talking about funding Ukraine.
As you understand, Article 5 would require to support and to defend NATO, our troops on the ground. The fastest way for us to eliminate that possibility is for us to destroy, to the extent possible, the Russian military. By doing so, we actually achieve the objective of keeping our military home. And that's good news.
Thank you, Senator Scott. Mr. Ramaswamy, are you persuaded by President Zelensky's urgent new plea? Where do you stand on more funding?
I'm absolutely unpersuaded. And I'm actually enjoying watching the Ukraine Hawks quietly, delicately tiptoe back from their position as this thing has unwound into a disaster. The first half of this race, I was the only person standing for it. Now they're actually quietly coming around to being more cautious, as they should. Level with the American people here. Ukraine is not a paragon of democracy. This is a country that has banned 11 opposition parties.
All right.
It has consolidated all media into one state TV media arm. That's not democratic. It has threatened not to hold elections this year unless the U.S. forks over more money. That is not democratic. It has celebrated a Nazi in its ranks, the comedian in cargo pants, a man called Zelensky, doing it in their own ranks. That is not democratic. More facts for you that you won't hear from the mainstream in either party or the mainstream media. The regions of Ukraine that are occupied by Russia right now in the Donbass, Luhansk, Donetsk, these are Russian-speaking regions that have not even been part of Ukraine since 2014, that other people probably couldn't name those provinces for you. Those are the hard facts. And so to frame this as some kind of battle between good versus evil, don't buy it. And I'd like the likes of the sharpest of the war hawks on Ukraine, Nikki Haley, to have some accountability and answer. Do you want to use U.S. taxpayer money to fund the banning of Christians? That is actually what's happening. They're using the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. They have banned them. The Ukrainian parliament just did this last week, supported by our dollars. And I think you owe it to the American people, Nikki, to at least this one time
Ramaswamy,
condemn,
thank you. That's time.
at least to condemn their banning of Christians.
Mr. Ramaswamy, thank you. Mr. Ramaswamy, thank you. We asked the questions. Ambassador Haley,
she deserves to
Oh, shit.
on more funding for Ukraine.
Oh, shit.
I am telling you, Putin and President Xi are salivating at the thought that someone like that could become president. They would love to see
The fact of the matter is,
So this is what I will tell you.
We're driving Russia
first of all,
into China's
Mr.
hands
Ramaswamy,
because of
you
these
had
foolish
your time to
policies.
talk. The ambassador has the floor.
Thank
Ambassador
you. The
Keith.
first thing I'll tell you is we all remember what that thug did.
You know,
when he
say what you
invaded
will about
Ukraine.
NBC.
We all know
I like the fact that the
500,000
moderators hate
people
the
have died
candidates
because of Putin.
because
And
they'll
here is
limit
a
their bullshit.
freedom-loving, pro-American country that is fighting for its survival and its democracy. No, I don't think we should give them cash. I think we should give them the equipment and the ammunition to win. And I'll tell you, if Biden had done it when they first asked for it, this war would be over. But let's also remember this. When you left Afghanistan in shambles and left them with a ton of weapons and money, it's not that we left, it's how we left. When you look at Ukraine, don't think for a second, now everybody wants to move away from Ukraine. They'll want to move away from Israel a year from now. America can never be so arrogant to think we don't need friends.
A year from now, I want to move away from Israel now.
Now is the time to get partnerships. This unholy alliance between Russia, Ukraine, and China is real. There is a reason the Taiwanese want us to support the Ukrainians. It's because they know that China's coming after them next. There is a reason Ukrainians want us to support Israelis, because they know that if Iran wins, Russia wins.
Ambassador,
we have to see the combination of the three.
Ambassador, thank you. Governor Christie, what is your take? And how
No
long
rebuttal.
should
No
Americans
rebuttal
be
allowed.
expected to help fund the war in Ukraine?
Kirsten, let's remember the last time that we turned our back on a shooting war in Europe. It bought us just a couple of years. And then 500,000 Americans were killed in Europe to defeat Hitler. This is not a choice. This is the price we pay for being the leaders of the free world. And the fact is, this alliance is not just with Russia and China. Governor Haley knows this. Iran is in the middle of this as well, and so is North Korea.
North Korea.
And they are all working to support Russia right now. And the reason they're doing it is because dictators work together. People who believe in democracy work together. We must stand with all of those that are standing up for democracy and freedom in this world. And by the way, let's remind everybody of this. In 1992, this country made a promise to Ukraine. We said, if you return nuclear missiles that were part of the old Soviet Union to Russia and they invade you, we will protect you. An American promise that's 31 years old is no different than an American promise that's made tonight on this stage. We need to stand by it. And those of us who forget history are doomed to repeat it. And
I'd like to respond.
And the absolute giving in to dictators, which is being suggested on this stage, just shows the immaturity of the approach.
Governor Christie, thank you. Governor DeSantis, I'd like you to weigh in on this idea. Are you concerned that this could become a wider war if Putin is not stopped now?
Well, any suggestion by Zelensky or anyone else that we're going to eventually have U.S. troops there, I can tell the American people when I'm president, that will not happen. We are not going to send your sons and daughters to Ukraine. I am going to send troops to our southern border. If you look at the threats that we face, terrorists have come in through our southern border.
DeSantis
I'm going to
has
shut it
moved on
down.
the
I'm going to
issue.
have the military, and I'm going to deport the people who've come, particularly under Biden, who've come from the Middle East, come from all these places. Now, Biden wants $105 billion. 60, most of that's Ukraine, including some of it going to pay pensions for bureaucrats and salaries. That is a totally ridiculous use of American tax dollars. He says he has money for border to try to do, and the media repeat that. When you look at it, what most of the money is money to process more illegal aliens into this country. How is that solving the problem? That's making the problem worse. And what does he do for the Indo-Pacific? A pittance. That is the top threat that we face.
I'm shocked that someone mentioned the border without talking about
We need the Europeans to step up and do their fair share. And we need to get serious about the top threat that this country faces, which is the Chinese Communist Party.
So if I may respond to the Ukraine question.
In fact, we are going to go from the hot wars in Ukraine and Gaza and Israel to what many people are calling the new Cold War with China. And I remind the audience that it's important for our visitors at home to be able to hear you, and especially for the people in Beijing to hear you. Many Republicans believe that the Chinese Communist Party and General Secretary Xi is an existential threat to the United States. The flashpoint is Taiwan. For decades and decades, the American military, but primarily the United States Navy, has deterred an attack from China to the island state of Taiwan. But Ronald Reagan's Navy of 600 ships is gone. Now, the question to you is, and I'll start with you, Ambassador Haley, because you were in President Trump's cabinet. His goal was a 355-ship Navy. That's what he pushed for. He got to 300. It's now at 291. Is that big enough to deter and, if necessary, defeat an invasion of Taiwan?
China has the largest naval fleet in the world. They have 350 ships. They'll have 400 ships in 2 years. We won't even have 350 ships in 2 decades. China has built up their military. It's not just land, air, and sea. They're doing cyber. They're doing artificial intelligence. They're doing space. America needs to modernize our military.
Okay, so give it all to Ukraine and Israel.
The first thing is you go and you make sure you have the backs of Ukraine. That's why the Taiwanese want us to support Ukraine, because they know that sends the biggest message to China. The second thing is we go to China and we start being tough on them. No more sales of our American soil to China.
Lockheed Martin
and let's
shareholders
take back what they've already
love
stolen.
this
Then
woman.
you go and to the universities. No more having millions of dollars go to our universities. Then we will go and end all formal trade relations with China until they stop murdering Americans from fentanyl, something Ron has yet to say that he's going to do. And then we modernize our military. When we strengthen our military, when we modernize it with the focus of cyber, artificial intelligence, and space, when we make sure that we have the backs of our friends, whether it's in Israel, whether it's in Ukraine, and we should be arming Taiwan. Make sure they have the equipment they need. Make sure they have the training they need now. There's nothing China fears more than knowing that America will have Taiwan's back. Let's make sure that we show it by making sure they have the equipment they need.
Governor DeSantis, my question is
They have the
specifically
equipment,
about the
then we
Navy.
don't.
It's at 291. It's going to
Unless
go down
we're
perhaps as low as
really
280.
pumping a bunch
Is
of
it
money
enough?
into
And what
Lockheed
would you
Martin.
build if you were going to build more?
Not enough. We have to have the ability to back up a strategy of denial of President Xi's ambitions. And if China is able to be the world's leading superpower, that will affect you and your family in ways that are going to be very bad. They will export authoritarianism all around the world as the cost of doing business. They will impose things like social credit scores and internet monitoring. So this is, to this generation, what the Soviet Union was to the post-World War II generation. I've already released a plan. We're going to get to 355 ships at the end of the first term, 385 ships at the end of the second term, but we're going to have a path to 600 ships over the next 20 years. I think the future of freedom is going to be determined in the Indo-Pacific. We have a strategy not just military,
won't be
but
president for
decoupling
20
from the economy
years.
and fighting them here at
Won't be
home with their
president at all,
culture.
but-
Ambassador Haley said somehow I wasn't doing. She welcomed them into South Carolina, gave them land near a military base, wrote the Chinese ambassador a love letter saying what a great friend they were. That was like their #1 way to do economic development. In Florida,
she's staying
I banned
silent.
China from buying land in this state, and
Nope,
we kicked
wait.
out on our universities, and we kicked the Confucius Institutes out of our universities. We've recognized the threat, and we've
The moderators
acted
aren't going to
swiftly and
respond.
decisively.
Senator Scott, you've been in the Congress since 2011. Defense spending has fallen over that entire period of time. Where are we going to get the money, and what would you build?
I'm
and what
loving
kind of
this.
ships to deter China from attacking Taiwan?
Well, two major problems.
They're not
with the
letting them
question.
bicker.
Number one, We do not have currently a defense industrial bank to allow us to have the kind of production that we need in order to keep America safe. Frankly, if we are not prepared to fight and engage in 3 continents at the same time, think about where we are today. In the Middle East, we are in the midst of trying to back our strongest ally. In Eastern Europe, we've seen our resources and our weaponry help degrade the Russian military. The Indo-Pacific, we have real challenges.
Degrade the Russian military. There we go again with that
long-term
phrase.
threat is China. Immediate threat is our southern border. In order for us to have the military to fight 3 different continents at the exact same time, we're going to have to invest heavily in our military, but we're also going to have to invest heavily in an industrial base so that we can hit our objectives from a military perspective, not only with our ships, but also with our planes. We are so old as a military that in order for us to recalibrate, we're going to have to invest. One of the things I do in my Made in America strategy is we create more than 4 million new jobs by having high-tech manufacturing come back to America, decoupling from China, so that we focus our attention on creating that industrial revolution that will be necessary for us to achieve the goal of having a military that is ready to be lethal.
We got to be smart enough.
Senator, Mr. Ramaswamy, I'm looking for specifics. What would you build? Where would you build it? When would they be in the water? How big would the fleet get?
First answer is end the toxic divest to invest program. For people who don't know about that, we're decommissioning ships in the South China Sea. The foundation of war is economics. Rebuild our defense industrial base at home. But here's the dirty little secret. Our actual defense industrial base depends on China for the supply chain, for the F-35 jets, for the ships that we're building. Think about this. Why are we stockpiling that if it isn't to actually be strong against our enemy, China? We depend on them for that.
They can hack it.
Just like we depend on them for pharmaceuticals, just like we depend on them for semiconductors. So here's why we can't get tough with China. It's because we depend on them for our modern way of life, and we have to declare economic independence from our enemy. That's the Declaration of Independence that Thomas Jefferson, at the age of 33, would have signed. And today, if he were alive, that's the Declaration of Independence that I will sign as the next president. I do have to recognize that Ron DeSantis was correct about acknowledging Nikki Haley's tough talk when she was ambassador to the UN, calling China our great friend, bringing the CCP to South Carolina. What he left out, though, Ron, and be honest about it, there was a lobbying-based exemption in that bill that allowed Chinese nationals to buy land within a 20-mile radius of a military base lobbied for by one of your donors. So I think we have to call a spade a spade. We need politicians who are independent of the forces that increase our dependence on China. They're not going to get to fight it out. My message to Xi Jinping is this. You are done buying land in this country. You will not donate to universities in this country. U.S. businesses won't expand into the Chinese market until you play by the same set of rules.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
you're kicked out of the WTO, and you actually have to have accountability for the COVID-19 pandemic financially, which unleashed hell on the world.
COVID-19 China.
Do you have a number and a plan?
I think that we need to increase our naval capacity by at least 20% over the course of the next several years. I think we have to, at minimum, be able to meet our AUKUS agreement standards. Right now, we are at risk of not even being able to meet our AUKUS standards with Australia and the UK. So what we need to do is have a plan that reverses the trajectory of the divest to invest program
I'd like to
by
respond.
20% over the next 3 years.
Governor Christie?
You know, my first observation too is that nobody
Ron
answers your
and Nikki
question.
went to Christie.
And my second observation is these 3 in the middle think they're the enemy. I know China is the enemy, and that's what we should be focused on. So let's be really clear. The nuclear submarines in this United States Navy is the greatest deterrent to Chinese aggression, and that is the first place I would go to increase American naval power. Our nuclear submarines are able to move stealthily, quietly, and effectively. And if we are going to deter China from invading Taiwan, the only way we're going to do it is to make sure that they don't know whether how many nuclear submarines from the United States of America are in the South China Sea and in that area and ready to strike on them if they decide to move on Taiwan. And so we, as our first priority, need to go directly to our nuclear sub program queue, and we need to increase it.
We're just going to park a bunch of nuclear subs on their coast.
Ships would come next, but to me, the ships are secondary choice here. The submarines are the single most important thing that we could be deterring, that we could be using to deter China. But the other thing we could do to deter China is to let them know that the blood money they're spending for Russia in Ukraine right now will not be effective, that we send Putin home with his tail between his legs and make them understand that the same fate waits for them if they decide to move towards Taiwan with a more aggressive nuclear sub-program. We'll be able to make that threat real.
Thank you, Governor. We're going to take a brief pause now, and we'll be back to the Republican presidential primary debate. Please stay tuned.
All right. I'm going to bring that down for just a minute while they're at commercial break. Let me check on my dinner here. Nope, no dinner yet. Sorry. Got a loved one, a family member up there cooking my dinner tonight, and I'm going to, wow. Wow. I'm speechless. I'm speechless. I am. I'm really speechless at the warmongering I'm seeing. I knew I was going to see a bunch of warmongering. I'm kind of shocked that Tim Scott has been so pro-war, but yet at the same time, Scott and DeSantis both waffling on the Ukraine funding issue after they were, again, like Vivek said, in the first debate, they were all for, funding Ukraine, and Scott is being very careful with his words of, we need to, what was he saying? Destabilize the Russian military or whatever, or deplete the Russian military. It's insane. It is really insane that you can use that language, but then no, we're not going to actually fund that. Like, we're going to do that, but we're not going to fund that. He's speaking out of both sides of his mouth, and Tim Scott's got no chance. I'm surprised he even qualified for this debate. I mean, I'm kind of surprised Christie did too, but I guess I'm pretty sure both of them are going to wind up outside of the debate the next time around, which I guess is going to be the 6th of December. So we're looking at probably a month out here. Wow. Tim Scott's, again, he's doing such a bad job. It's sad when Chris Christie's making you look bad. And while I don't support a damn thing Christie has said other than what was that? I agreed with him. I don't even remember what I agreed with him on now. But, other than that, I haven't agreed with a damn word he said. But, I still think he looks like a better candidate than Scott. Like, if it was between the two of them, I'd probably vote for Biden before voting for either of them. But it's sad. It's sad. I'm not a big fan of Vivek Ramaswamy, but so far, in these 3 debates, he's the only person with a populist America first position. Now, granted, this debate has been real heavy on China, Ukraine, and Israel. And I'm assuming that the next hour we're going to get into a lot more domestic policies. That's why I put abortion right here on the screen, right there. That's why I put the abortion thing in there, because obviously they're going to be talking about the abortion situation especially with what's happened in the recent state elections. But yeah, this is where we're at now. Oh, let's see. Are we coming back from? I think we are coming back from commercial break. So.
And welcome back to tonight's NBC News Republican presidential debate. Once again, here's Hugh Hewitt.
Thank you, Lester. We're going to stay on China, and we're going to talk specifically about TikTok.
More China, TikTok.
Week, Congressman Mike Gallagher, who is chairman of the House Bipartisan Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, published a long essay on TikTok following the flooding of pro-Hamas propaganda onto TikTok accounts across the United States. Chairman Gallagher called it shocking. He called the app predatory.
I hadn't heard about
America's
this.
preeminent adversary, one used to push propaganda and divide America. It's spyware, he said, a means of surveillance. Governor Christie, do you agree with Chairman Gallagher? And if so, would you ban or force the sale of TikTok?
I agree 100% with Chairman Gallagher. And let me say this. TikTok is not only spyware, it is polluting the minds of American young people all throughout this country. And they're doing it intentionally. And when you saw what happened in the last few weeks,
I mean,
with all of this anti-Semitic, horrible stuff that their algorithms were pushing out at a gargantuan rate. This is China trying to further divide
people are making
the United
that
States of
content,
America.
though.
And this is one of the big failings among
Look,
many
don't
of the
get me
Trump
wrong. I'm not
administration.
for big
He
tech and
talked
their
tough
algorithms.
about TikTok. I heard him do it many times. But when it came down to it, he did not ban them when he could have and should have. And now since then, we've had an additional nearly 6 years of this type of poison being put out throughout the United States, even putting aside the spying, which we know is going on, and the theft of American personal data and information. So in my first week as president, we would ban TikTok. They want to go ahead and sell it?
I doubt that.
Let them go ahead and sell it. But I'll tell you another reason we would do it. Facebook's not in China. X is not in China. They're not permitting a free flow of information to the Chinese people.
Bullshit.
From our social media companies.
Bullshit.
Yes, we just open the door and let them do what they're doing. TikTok should be banned because they are poisoning American minds, and I would do it week one.
Thank you, Governor. I want to go to Governor DeSantis. Would you ban or force the sale of TikTok, regardless of whether or not China allowed American apps to operate in China?
Yes, I think that China is the top threat we face. They've been very effective at infiltrating different parts of our society. So my policy on China and the Chinese Communist Party is very simple. We win, they lose. And in order to do that, it's not just military, it's economic, and it's cultural. And as the dad of a 6'5" and a 3-year-old, I'm concerned about the data that they're getting from our young people and what they're doing to pollute the minds of our young people. These kids get these devices and they have a mind of their own. And I know a lot of parents
instead of banning
are
them
looking,
outright,
it's hard to
let's
even
make
keep
some
it out.
regulations
China's
about the
obviously
algorithms.
the most extreme, but this is happening with other things. So we are going to do that, and we are going to make sure to protect the American people. It's a full spectrum approach to be able to fend China off. Yes, military deterrence, yes, economic decoupling, but also their role in our culture. If we ignore that, we're not going to be able to win the fight.
Thank you, Governor. Ambassador Haley, speak to the parents out there. There are probably TikTok apps on half the phones in this auditorium.
No, I'm going to speak to the fact that 2 people hit me and you didn't let me respond. So let's first talk about the fact that they want to talk about the Chinese land from 10 years ago. Yes, I brought a fiberglass company 10 years ago to South Carolina.
I'm going to say drink for number 6
of your economic development agency that as of last week said Florida is the ideal
maybe number
place
2, but we'll hang
for
on
Chinese businesses. Not only that, you have a company that is manufacturer of Chinese military planes. You have it. They are expanding 2 training sites at 2 of your airports now, one which is 12 miles away from a naval base. Then you have another company that's expanding, and they were just invaded by the Department of Homeland Security. So mine was 10 years ago.
You gave
Yours
them
was
stuff.
6
I
months
didn't
ago.
give them anything.
What's your story?
And I abolished that agency that she's talking about.
No,
Enterprise Florida, we abolished it. And of course, we banned China from buying
the
land.
website
Not
last
exactly
week.
a
Go
great
check.
recruiting pitch if you're banning them from purchasing land.
scrubbed the
So
website
we've stood
last
up
week.
and
Thank you,
we've done the
Ambassador
right thing
Haley.
in Florida.
Mr.
Yep, there we go.
We've talked
Number
about
3,
this. You
cheers,
campaign
drink.
on TikTok. How do you get TikTok banned if you use it?
Well, I want to laugh at why Nikki Haley didn't answer your question, which is about looking at families in the eye. In the last debate, she made fun of me for actually joining TikTok while her own daughter was actually using the app for a long time. So you might want to take care of your family first.
Leave my daughter out of your voice.
Oh, shit.
The next generation of Americans are using it. And that's actually the point. You have her supporters propping her up. That's fine. Here's the truth. The easy answer is actually to say that we're just going to ban one app. We got to go further. We have to ban any U.S. company actually transferring U.S. data to the Chinese. Here's a story most people don't know. Airbnb hands over U.S. user data to the CCP. Now, that's a U.S.-owned company. So this is the problem when you have Republicans that temporarily go the way the winds blow, and now it's popular to talk tough on China. When she was UN ambassador, called them literally, her words, not mine, our great friend. You can't be fair weather fans of the right policy. Get to the root cause. Even U.S. companies in Silicon Valley are regularly doing it. Cut the virtue signaling. The fact of the matter is Democrats are on TikTok today. The only person, one of the few people who is putting up content the way the actual algorithms work, speaking for pro-Israel views or others, is
Ambassador
me.
Haley,
more Republicans will join it. But stop U.S. companies from turning over data to Chinese companies.
Moderators like Kristen don't get to respond to personal attacks, but you do.
Thank you very much. You know, when he talks about me praising China, he doesn't know the fact that the reason China was praised was because I negotiated with China and Russia the largest set of sanctions against North Korea in a generation. That is literally the reason North Korea stopped testing ballistic missiles. So I said China did good on their part. That was a negotiation you could never do.
Our great friend. Words, not mine. And so just own up to it.
You would never have been able to get that negotiation
done. But don't lie to the people about what you've said or what you've done in South Carolina.
My entire career at the United Nations. Every day I fought China, and I did it by making sure no one could get any agency heads in the UN. I did it by making sure that we called them out on human rights. I did it by making sure that we held them accountable on everything that they did. That's the reason we got out of the Human Rights Council. That's the reason we called them out. And there's not been a day I haven't stopped.
Senator Scott, it is your turn. Mr. Ramaswamy,
you made afterwards.
Everybody else is hanging on to the rules here, Mr. Ramaswamy. Senator Scott.
Thank you. We should.
Except you just allowed Haley a rebuttal when you haven't allowed anyone else.
What we should do.
Fuck the rules at this point.
TikTok, period. Now, we saw under former President Trump, he tried to ban TikTok twice, but was struck down by our federal courts. If you cannot ban TikTok, you should eliminate the Chinese presence on the app. Period. We also should provide, in my parents' Bill of Rights, we give parents the opportunity
Isn't that what Ramaswamy just
permission under 14 to be on those apps. I think it's incredibly important for us as Americans to take back control of the information, especially of our kids. Where does it go? We should know that. One of the ways that we get to know that is by having a parental consent. But if we can eliminate TikTok, that is a first step.
If you eliminate TikTok, the same fucking content's just going to go to Instagram. And this idea that Facebook's not doing the same shit is bullshit.
We have to make sure that we use the tools that are in our toolkit to stop China from buying farmland near our bases. The third thing we have to do is make sure that they stop stealing our intellectual property. They're literally stealing our IP to compete against us. My administration, we stop that day one, and we start making sure that we create six-figure income for jobs made in America through my strategy.
Kristen.
Hugh, thank you so much. We're now going to talk about Venezuela, where millions have fled political and economic turmoil. Many Venezuelan immigrants are settling right here in Florida. Former President Trump and President Biden have taken different approaches to Nicolas Maduro's regime with little result. Former President Trump put economic pressure on Venezuela and backed one of Maduro's rivals. President Biden temporarily eased sanctions to encourage electoral reforms. Governor DeSantis, do you see the political situation in Venezuela as a threat to the United States, and what would your approach be?
We should never rely on Venezuela for oil like Biden has had to go beg. I'm going to unleash all of America's energy potential. On day one, I'm taking all the Biden regulations, the Green New Deal, ripping it up and throwing it in the trash can where it belongs. We're going to lower your gas prices. We're going to create jobs. We're going to lower energy costs, but we're also going to be more energy independent and secure. We'll choose Midland over Moscow. We'll choose the Marcellus over the Mullahs, and we'll choose Bakken over Beijing. That is good for America's national security. Biden's Green New Deal, That's good for Venezuela, it's good for Russia, it's good for Iran, and it's good for China. So I would turn the screws on the Venezuelan regime. I think it's a corrupt, dictatorial regime, and we should never go hat in hand begging for oil from them.
Just to be clear, would you reimpose the sanctions?
Yes, absolutely.
Ambassador Haley, what would your approach be?
You know, I stood on the Simon Bolivar Bridge and watched thousands of Venezuelans cross for hours in the hot sun, holding their babies to get the one meal they might get that day, going from Venezuela to Colombia. They were fleeing socialism and begging for freedom. We need to make sure that we do everything we can to sanction Maduro. We shouldn't be getting dirty oil. And Biden just gave 500,000 Venezuelans temporary priority status, which is just going to have more.
She acts like we
but on
can't
the
go
energy
to
side, it cracks
Twitter
me up that Ron
and see the
continues to do
videos
this.
of military-aged males.
He's opposed drilling. Last
Those
time he
weren't
said it wasn't
families
true,
escaping
and everybody found out
socialism.
that it was true. He opposed it before Florida voters even voted on it. He was praised by the Sierra Club, and you're trying to make up for it and act like you weren't a liberal when it comes to the environment. You were. You always have been. Just own it if that's the case. But don't keep saying you're something that you're not.
Let me respond to that. Our whole energy
Agree.
plan, you can't get the shale without fracking. We are absolutely going to frack, but I disagree with Nikki Haley. I don't think it's a good idea to drill in the Florida Everglades, and I know most Floridians agree with me.
You ban fracking.
Thank you very much. Lester?
All right, well, thank you. Let's turn to one of the biggest issues for voters. That, of course, is the economy. This is a question that will go to all of you. An Iowa voter recently told NBC News, "How am I going to make sure my pantry's stocked without breaking the bank?" You've all said the best way to deal with rising prices is to cut government spending. But that would take time to play out, and Americans are struggling right now. Senator Scott, I'll start with you. What would you do the moment you take office to help Americans manage the cost of living? So we're talking about short term here.
My mother was a single mother who raised me and my brother in a very challenging economic situation. The first thing I can tell you is that when your gas prices are 40% higher right now than they were just a little over 2 years ago, that's not a problem for my mama. That was a crisis. The first thing I would do as President of the United States is I would sign the XL Keystone Pipeline and start seeing resources flow. Second thing I would do is make sure that there's certainty and predictability so that those folks who have the leases in our country would have the certainty and predictability to go ahead and become energy independent. We should focus not just on being energy independent. We should focus on being energy dominant. America is the home to more energy resources than any other country on the planet. We can reduce the price of energy. We can reduce the price of food and the price of electricity if we focus on my build here, don't borrow from China plan that is embedded the Made in America strategy.
I will be right back,
million new jobs.
Go grab my dinner
in three different areas. One
I'm
is
be taking my phone with me playing
Second
the debate. So
the
I'll have
high-tech
things to talk about.
manufacturing. And the third is the energy economy. We have an opportunity as Americans to actually export the surplus energy that we create in our nation and disconnect from China and from murderous dictators and tyrants around the
Your
world.
time is up, but let me just follow up. The idea of pumping gas, of turning on pipelines, that doesn't make gas cheaper that day. I'm talking about you become president. What can you do specifically to help people feel better about their situation or be better with their situation?
Well, actually, it does, to be honest with you. The way that the economy works is it works on the ability to anticipate excess supply versus the demand. When that happens, confidence drives our prices down because we know there's going to be a greater surplus. When you allow for those who have leases to actually start drilling, to start using those leases for more energy excavation, you put our economy in the strongest position. And as a result of that, prices start going down. That is the kind of economy that as president of the United States, I would lead this nation to making sure that we first use the resources in our own country and not going outside of our country in order to achieve our objective. You know, Proverbs 22:7 reminds us that the borrower is slave to the lender. We have become an indentured servant too often to countries like China. By having an energy economy, we start allowing this nation to once again return.
Senator, thank you. Let me ask the same question to Governor DeSantis. Can you give us some, you ticked off a number of things a moment ago, but some specific examples of ways that would put people on a better economic footing right away?
So I started off working minimum wage jobs. I did $6 an hour as an electrician's assistant. I worked all kinds of things to be able to get through school. And I did that because I believed in America, if you work hard and get the most out of your God-given ability, you can get ahead. And what's happening now, many of you are working hard and you're falling further and further behind. I've met people in Iowa, New Hampshire, and all across the country who've talked about all the burdens that they're facing with the rising prices. And I've heard from multiple people the same story. When they go grocery shopping, what they now do is they figure out what they have to take out of the cart once it's ringing up, because it rings up so much faster and so much higher at the cash register that they can't afford the full cart of groceries anymore. We have to restore the American dream in this country. What can you do on day one? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take all the executive orders, the regulations, everything involving Bidenomics. I'm going to rip it up and I'm going to throw it in the trash can on day one where it belongs. That is going to give the economy breathing room. And I'm also going to rein in the Federal Reserve. They have helped create, with their reckless monetary policy, what we have faced since the COVID-19 pandemic. They botched it. Congress botched it. Both parties are to blame. Fed should focus on stable prices. They are not an economic central planner for the American people.
Governor, thank you. Mr. Ramaswamy, weigh in on this.
No, the show's not over.
You can improve people's financial condition in the short term.
Right. And as a CEO, the economic question is core to
I said
my
I'd be
vision
right back.
policy prescription for this country. Increase the supply of everything.
We
It's the
did
law of
have
supplies and
two
demand. Increase the
drinking
supply of energy. That
game
brings down the
moments.
cost of energy, grows the economy. Drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear. Increase the supply of labor in this country. Stop using our taxpayer money to
We
pay
had
people
DeSantis
more to
mention
stay
both
at
the
home
Federal Reserve,
instead of to go to work.
which is
Increase
number
the supply
10
of
right
housing.
here.
People don't talk about this one in the Republican Party.
And we
The land
made a
use
joke about
restrictions are
Bidenomics.
constricting the supply of housing. That's making housing more expensive for ordinary Americans across this country. So that's the true answer. And I think it takes a CEO in the White House who actually understands this to get this done. Because Americans at home, they know the Bidenomics is a lie. Prices are going up. Interest rates and mortgages to buy your home are going up, but wages have remained flat. That's the hard diagnosis for our economy. And this is about more than just our economy. I say this as a member of my generation. I'm 38 years old. I'm the youngest person ever to run for U.S. president as a Republican. The reason my generation has lost our sense of national pride, in part, is because people in my generation feel like the American dream isn't available to them. And part of the reason why is we burdened them with four-year college degrees that did not serve their head start on the American dream. People will be more proud of a country if we're all making more money in that country. This is how we revive national pride and our identity, and it will take a CEO in the White House with zero-based budgeting, by the way, to take on the federal debt to get this
Let me
job
turn
done.
to Governor Christie on that.
Well, look, Lester, part of the entire premise of the
Platitudes.
question, and I agree
That was
with
all
Tim on this,
platitudes by
is
Ramaswamy.
absolutely energy is the key to this because it drives every one of those other prices. You know, now food gets to your grocery store,
What?
it gets trucked.
What?
And those truckers have to pay for fuel, for the higher fuel prices. And when you go ahead and you tell people, we are going to unleash
Loans.
every bit of American
Federal
energy,
Reserve, the inflation.
every bit of its potential.
It's not
What
fucking.
happens in the futures markets?
The
The prices go down
vehicles-
because those people who are believing that the Biden
Energy
program will
and fuel
continue
rely
are the
on
ones
the
who are bidding this
inflation.
up.
Like, it's
And let me
all-
tell you the other place that's bidding it up, in the Middle East. And so if you don't believe that making sure that Israel and that Israel situation that's going on right now isn't resolved and resolved quickly as president of the United States and bring stability back, that will also not permit
What the
countries
fuck?
like Saudi Arabia and others to be able to jack their prices as well in what they say is in response to a crisis, when it's really what it's in response to is putting more money in their pockets. When they have an American president who knows that Israel must be defended not with humanitarian pauses and not with suggestions for ceasefire, but with letting them
The
know we
solution
will
to our
supply
energy
them with
woes
everything
is
they need.
fucking war.
That will also bring stability to the
Fuck you,
market.
Christie.
Energy is the key to bringing this down. It's what every American family needs when they turn on their lights, fill up their car, and go to the grocery store. And we need to do that first and foremost. That's the short-term answer.
Governor Christie, thank you. Ambassador Haley, let me come at this from a slightly different direction. Americans in rural communities are being especially squeezed by inflation right now. An Iowa State University study found that last year inflation cost rural households about an extra $5,000. How would you specifically help rural Americans who are suffering right now, Ambassador?
Well, I'm a product of rural America. I grew up in rural South Carolina.
What's it got to do with being a voter?
What we're seeing now in America is the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. We have to go and start beefing up the middle class. And the first thing I would do is I will eliminate the federal gas and diesel tax in this country. We'll cut taxes on the middle class, but we have to stop this spending binge that's happening by Republicans and Democrats.
Be careful with
Congress.
that talking point. It
I will
sounds
make sure,
good,
one, we claw back
but
the $500
a lot of
billion
times
of unspent
when a
COVID dollars
politician
that are
starts
out there.
talking about
Instead
eliminating the
of
gas
87,000
tax,
IRS agents
they want
going
to
after
replace
middle
it with a
America, we'll
per
go
mile
after the
tax.
hundreds of billions of dollars of COVID fraud that exists, one out of every $7. We'll stop the spending, we'll stop the borrowing, we'll eliminate the earmarks, and I'll veto any spending bill that doesn't go back to pre-COVID levels. That will cut trillions and allow us to be safe. We also need to be not energy independent, energy dominant. We are blessed with resources. Let's do it. But the reason no one should give you a number, Hugh, on the amount of ships in the Navy is because in a few years, our interest expense is going to be more than our defense budget. So no one can give you that number realistically without first tackling what's happening with the financial situation.
Did you see
it would be
Vivek
a
and
false
Scott?
number to give you that. We have got to understand this is a crisis. It is a national security concern. If we don't deal with what's going to happen with that interest expense in a few years, we're going to look like Japan, and we can't let that happen. The strong dollar matters.
Ambassador, thank you very much.
We don't want to look like Japan. There's too many weebs.
Americans could see their Social Security benefits drastically cut in the next decade because the program is running out of money. Former President Trump has said, quote, under no circumstances should Republicans cut entitlements. Governor Christie, first to you. You have proposed raising the retirement age for younger Americans. What would that age be specifically, and would you consider making
By the way,
any
for
other
those curious
reforms to
about my
Social
dinner,
Security?
Sure.
chicken, rice, and broccoli.
Problem. Now, look, if we raise the retirement age a few years for folks that are in their 30s and 40s, I have a son who's in the audience tonight who's 30 years old. If he can't adjust to a few-year increase in Social Security retirement age over the next 40 years, I got bigger problems with him than his Social Security payments. And the fact is, we need to be realistic about this. There are only three things that go into determining whether Social Security can be solvent or not: retirement age, eligibility for the program in general, and taxes. That's it. We are already overtaxed in this country, and we should not raise those taxes. But on eligibility also, I don't know if out there tonight, and if you're watching Warren, I don't know if Warren Buffett is collecting Social Security, but if he is, shame on you. You shouldn't be taking the money. There are a lot of programs in this country that we all pay for that we don't get a direct benefit from. Food stamps is one of them.
He doesn't need
I've never, fortunately, in my life, ever had me or my family on food stamps. But I'm glad it's there so that no one in this country goes to bed hungry at night if they have availability to that program. But I don't get a direct benefit. The fact is, on Social Security, remember why it was established. It was established as a safety net program to make sure that no one would grow old in this country in poverty. That's what we got to get back to. Rich people should not be collecting Social Security.
Governor, can you give me a specific age, 69, 70? What would the age be?
No, look, that's going to be a part of a negotiation with Congress, Kirsten. And hell, I'm not going to start negotiating until I get there.
All right, Ambassador Haley, let me have you weigh in on this because you said in June
I don't want to say
you'd be
something
open to
unpopular
raising
until
the
I get
retirement
there.
age. Have you determined what that age would be specifically, and what other reforms are you looking at?
So first of all, any candidate that tells you that they're not going to take on entitlements is not being serious. Social Security will go bankrupt in 10 years. Medicare will go bankrupt in 8. Right now, you have Ron and Trump joining Biden and Pelosi saying they're not going to change or do any sort of entitlement reform. What we need to do is keep our promises. Those that have been promised should keep it. But for like my kids in their 20s, you go and you say, we're going going to change the rules. You change the retirement age for them. Instead of cost of living increases, we should go to increases based on inflation. We should limit benefits on the wealthy. Bernie Marcus can tell you he hates getting that check. Limit the benefits on the wealthy, and then expand Medicare Advantage plans. Seniors love that, and let's make sure we do that so that they can have more competition. That's how we'll deal with entitlement reform, and that's how we'll start to pay down this debt.
And can you give me a specific age? Have you determined the age?
Again, you have to work with Chris. What I can tell you is it's going to be those in their 20s just coming into the system, and it should reflect more of life expectancy.
But they're already working and paying into it.
Have you determined if you would touch entitlements and Social Security? What, if any, reforms are you looking at?
So this is really important right now. We're
Turn it
working
into
within
a
the
pension
last window I believe we will have to actually fix this problem while still leaving Social Security and Medicare benefits for current seniors intact.
Quit rating it for war in Ukraine.
Like Nikki, that it can't be done. And on her math, she's right about it. But her math assumes $7 trillion of our $33 trillion national debt going to fight wars like in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. Minus that, our national debt would be $26 trillion right now. Then you go to zero-based budgeting, which I've proposed as a CEO. It's how I've run businesses. It's how many CEOs run businesses. Don't use last year's budget as the baseline. Start with zero as the baseline and then ask what's actually necessary. 75% headcount reduction. Yes, that is severe. In the number of federal employees in the Washington, D.C. bureaucracy. Shut down redundant agencies that should not exist. Deliver economic growth as a positive tailwind. I think we can get to 3, 4, maybe even 5% GDP growth if we really take the regulatory shackles off of our economy.
Cheers to Shut Up, I Can Cook.
I believe this is our last best window to be able to take care of our national debt problem through those severe measures, including sacrificing the foreign wars that many bloodthirsty.
Yeah, I skipped that news story. Sorry, it was a viral video. We might cover it next show. I'll change this.
Discipline.
I'll change
the
description.
We can't have the first conversation we were having sending foreign aid willy-nilly to countries whose national debt per capita is less than ours.
Thank you,
But if we do this correctly, I think this is our last window, and it'll take a CEO from the next generation to do it.
Thank you very much. Senator Scott, weigh in here. What are you looking at to keep Social Security sustainable?
The bottom line is a simple one. We have to grow our economy and cut our spending. Let me just say to my mama and to every other mama or grandfather receiving Social Security, as President of the United States, I will protect your Social Security. The fact is that we're spending today about $1.1 trillion on Social Security, about $750 billion on Medicare, about $300 billion on Medicaid, about $400 billion on veterans benefits, $1.7 trillion on annual appropriations. If we're going to actually tame this tiger,
it's those of us in our 40s and 50s who have been paying into it our whole life that are at risk.
That deserve their money coming back out to them. The way you deal with it is, number one, you have to grow your economy. My plan, Made in America, creates 10 million new jobs, grows our economy at 5%. By doing so, you add trillions of dollars of economic activity and billions of dollars to your treasury. Number two, you have to cut taxes. When we cut taxes in 2017, I wrote the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Everybody said, well, guess what? Revenue will go down. Well, in 2018, after we wrote it in 2017, what happened? Revenue went up by 3%, and the next year it went up by another 3%. So what we know,
and then we had a pandemic, and we lost all them gains.
Works, but the lower the tax, the higher the revenue. And finally, if we're going to deal with it, we have to take our annual appropriations back to pre-2020, pre-COVID levels of spending, which would save us about $500 billion in the next budget window. By doing that, we deal with Social Security and our mandatory spending.
Thank you, Senator. Very quickly, would you raise the retirement age? Would you be open to raising the retirement age, or do you rule that out?
All you have to do is go to a farm in Iowa and watch.
There we go. Iowa sucking. Oh man, I should have put that in the
conversation.
Yes, sir.
The answer is no. But listen to this though, before you go on. Thank you. The fact of the matter is that the more physical your labor, a year or 2 or 3 more is actually challenging to the physical body. You and I might have a different perspective, but for those farmers, they're working night and day.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate it. Governor DeSantis, finally to you, would you be open to raising the retirement age, and how would you keep Social Security sustainable?
Imagine still working.
Well, look, as governor of Florida, I know a few people on Social
not
Security,
getting Social Security.
And I know it's important.
And you fall down and break your fucking hip.
And Social Security was her sole source of income, and that's true
for a lot of seniors throughout this country. So what I'd say to seniors in America, promise made, promise kept. I understand what you're going through with the rising prices, and you need that Social Security check. So we'll make sure to get that done. What can you do to help shore up Social Security? One of the things that's causing problems is the inflation.
Okay, it's going
we have to reduce inflation. When you have higher inflation, the seniors get a cost of living adjustment, which means the program's spending more, but it doesn't cover the increase in the actual inflation rate. We also do need to get to at least 3% growth. You're never going to be able to have issues be able to solve the budget without that. But I would note this. Congress for decades took money from Social Security. Social Security would have more tax revenue than it put out. They would take it and then they'd write an IOU to Social Security. Congress has a lot of dirty hands on this. I'm going to force Congress to stop spending so much money. And you know, one thing we have to do, we talk about the retirement age, is just something that's changed in the last 4 or 5 years. Life expectancy in the United States is declining.
So, Governor,
in this
yes
country.
or no? Would you raise it? Would you raise the retirement age?
When life expectancy is declining, I don't see how you could raise it the other direction. So it's one thing to peg it on life expectancy, but we have had a significant decline in life expectancy in this country,
So
and that's just the fact.
All right, Governor DeSantis, thank you. Thank you, candidates. And we will be right back after a quick break.
Then you're
from
asking
Miami,
people to
Florida.
spend the end of their life broke as fuck. Hang on. We'll go ahead and do. Okay, so real quick, a couple things I was hearing on the economic part of the debate there. DeSantis said everything we want to hear on domestic, and DeSantis has always been great on domestic policy, even better than Vivek. But again, DeSantis was pointed out part of the problem in way back when George W. Bush was trying to pass welfare reform and Social Security reform, and failed, by the way. You know, one of the things he kept saying in his press conferences, well, Social Security is not a locked box, right? And then like the next week, Congress would vote to divert Social Security funds to the Iraq war. And so this idea that Social Security is not a locked box and we, the politicians, can just steal from it, well, that's half the problem. And so if what DeSantis is saying is correct, that Social Security is going to be broke within 8 years or whatever, it's incumbent on us to transform the system into not necessarily a lockbox like a savings account, but you know, something that has a front load, right? So as people get older, you know, they've paid into it at a lower interest rate, and the next generation is going to be paying more into it. But when those people get older, they're going to need more. And so then you're all, and plus you're also going to need to pay for the disabled, right? So you're not going to get 100% return. And I don't believe in Bush's policy of just making it a blanket investment vehicle, right? He wanted to essentially turn it over to hedge funds and have them manage it like they do, you know, government pensions and the like. That doesn't always work. But if you had some sort of combination of the two, to where when a person pays into Social Security, some of it goes into a locked box, a percentage of it goes into a locked box, and another percentage of it goes into investment vehicles. And then any profits off of that investment vehicle, that money gets seen as a return that gets put back in the locked box, and any profit filters back down to the next generation and to the disabled. Shut Up I Can Cook says, wait a minute, Mild, how do these people take our money and then give it away to others? Well, that's government's whole position. Like, that's the entire reason government exists, you know, is to tax the shit out of you and then use that money for quote unquote services for the greater community, which would be other people. I mean, that's the definition of government, really. I mean, that's their entire goal in life, is to take your prosperity and use it to make the community prosper. Unfortunate. Okay, so it looks like we're about to come back from commercial. I'm going to wait until they get to the there we go, the stage there. Wait, what did I just do? Okay, unmute.
Sir, when NBC News talks to voters, when I talk to voters every day, they all say that the border is a top issue. It can mean a lot of different things. It can mean 2 million people.
Get ready to hear the word fentanyl a bunch.
It can mean more than 150 arrests of people on the terror watch list. It can mean the burden on states from having migrants move into their states from the southwestern border. But I want to talk about opioids specifically and fentanyl. And I'll start with you, Senator Scott. Tens of thousands of Americans' families have suffered a death to fentanyl. Young people sometimes die taking one pill. What can you do as Commander-in-Chief on the first day to stop fentanyl and the waterfall of it into this country?
Well, number one, we should close our southern border. For $10 billion, we could close our southern border. For an additional $5 billion, we could use the currently available military technology to surveil our southern border to stop fentanyl from crossing our border. I've already led on legislation that would sanction the Mexican cartels. If you remember the path, the precursors come from China, then they are manufactured in Mexican labs, and then the Mexican cartels bring them across our border. By sanctioning their cartels and eliminating their cash, we starve them of what they need, number one. Closing our southern border makes it nearly impossible to get in. The military-grade technology is a backup, making sure that we not only stop 70,000 deaths in the last 12 months because of fentanyl. It also allows us to deal with the human trafficking travesty that is entering in our country in the same path. If we are going to deal effectively with 100,000 overdose deaths in our country and the 70,000 that is directly linked to fentanyl, we have to deal with our ports of entry and deal with our southern border. If we do that effectively, we have started reducing the challenge from the outside, and then we have to deal with the challenge on the inside, which seems to be connected to a mental health crisis that is spreading throughout our nation.
Governor Christie, Senator Scott
it's
just
also related to the poverty.
Fentanyl that is seized in the United States is seized at ports of entry. We don't know what's coming in across the open southern border. You've been a United States attorney. You've taken on cartels. Can it really be done quickly? What would you do as president?
It can be done quickly in two ways, Hugh, on fentanyl. The first way is exactly as you suggest, at ports of entry. We have to beef up what our law enforcement has in terms of technology. I would invest in that as president. We need to make sure that law enforcement has every tool at its disposal to do it. Secondly, on day one, I would sign an executive order that would send the National Guard to partner with Customs and Border Patrol, both at ports of entry and at the open ports of our border. Customs and Border Patrol agents are overwhelmed. There's 200,000 encounters a month over the last 11 months.
Okay,
we simply do not have the man and woman power at the border to be able to deal with it. And so dealing with both law enforcement, and you're right, we have done this, we can do this, but we got to give them the tools to do it, and technology is one of the biggest tools that we don't have enough of at the ports of entry. Now, we also need to lower demand, Hugh, in this country. And the way to lower demand is to start treating people again. You know, we started to do this before COVID, and we haven't done enough of it. And for every family out there tonight who has lost a loved one to fentanyl or to any other type of opioid overdose, what you know is all you want is a chance for them to win their lives back. When I'm president of the United States, we're going to call this what it is. It is a disease.
But politicians
disease,
like you
diabetes,
have propped up the
any other
opioid
disease
crisis
like cancer that can be
by
treated,
supporting
should
Big
be
Pharma.
treated. We not only have to stop supply, but we have to lower demand and save lives.
Governor. Governor DeSantis, you have talked.
I just want to say that part of this issue with
using United States
putting
Special
more
Forces
troops on
to
the
attack
border,
the cartels where they manufacture the chemicals that come from China. How
maybe
often
We don't have border checkpoints 100 miles into the country.
Well, first,
Maybe we
I
take
was speaking to a dad
those border
who
patrol
lost
agents and
a
put them
son to
actually
fentanyl
on the
overdose.
fucking border.
Son wasn't a drug addict. He had taken some pill that happened to be laced with fentanyl, and it was a fatal overdose. And when he told me, obviously the pain of losing a child is as bad as it gets, but he said what was salt in the wounds is that these elites in DC don't give a damn about what's going on in this country. They don't care that we have tens of thousands of opioid deaths, that the fentanyl's pouring in. They are not taking the type of action we need to. We're declaring it a national emergency on day one. I'm sending U.S. military to the border. I'm going to stop the invasion cold. I am going to deport people who came illegally. And I'm even going to build the border wall and have Mexico pay for it like Donald Trump promised. How are you going to do it? Yeah, Mexico's not going to fork over money. We're going to impose fees on the remittances that foreign workers send to foreign countries. We'll raise billions of dollars. I'll build the wall. But we are going to designate the cartels to be foreign terrorist organizations or something similar to that. And we're going to authorize the use of deadly force.
Drone.
We're going to have maritime
drone
operations
Mexico.
to interdict precursor chemicals going into Mexico. But I'll tell you this, if someone in the drug cartels is sneaking fentanyl across the border when I'm president, that's going to be the last thing they do. We're going to shoot them stone cold dead.
Ambassador Haley.
I'd say that qualifies for number one on the drinking.
Haley, if the United States uses special forces in Mexico without prior notice to the Mexican allies to our south, what would your colleagues at the United Nations think about that?
I don't care what my colleagues at the United Nations think. What I'll tell you is, first of all, you have to go to the source.
So wait a
We
minute.
have lost more Americans
All
in
that
Vietnam,
shit you've been talking earlier in the debate about Israel being our greatest ally, and
75,000
now you don't
Americans
care
last year.
about our
Go to
allies in the
source.
UN?
It is the reason why we'll continue to say we will end all normal trade relations with China until they stop murdering Americans. You watch how quick that flow stops. The second thing is we'll send special operations in to take out the cartels. We need to go to where they're distributing it, where the supply centers are, and take them out. We'll put 25,000 more
when
Border
TVs
Patrol and
cost
ICE agents on the ground
$2,000 to
and let
manufacture,
them do their job. We will defund sanctuary
leftists
cities.
and
We will
normies
go
are gonna
back to the
come for
Remain
your
in
head.
Mexico policy so that everybody stays in Mexico and they never get here in the first place. And instead of catch and deport, we'll go to catch and release. I'm sorry, instead of catch and release, we'll go to catch and deport. That is the way we'll deal with the border. Those are the things that we have to do going forward. But I do agree with Chris. One of the first things that we have to do is really focus on mental health and addiction centers. It is something that is needed in our country
Asylums. We need
because we
fucking
don't deal
asylums.
with mental health, and someone who doesn't get care for mental health falls into
Like not the
addiction.
kind where
and
you're
we owe
cutting
it to them
people's
to treat it
brains
like the
open
cancer
and
that it is.
Mr. Ramaswamy.
electroshocking them every day. But
special forces in Mexico shoot them stone cold dead at the border?
One thing I just want to say, and how we're talking about this issue is, like Ron, I've actually met many parents across this country who have lost their kids to laced pharmaceuticals that have fentanyl in them. The only thing I would ask, Ron, I think you'd be on the same page with me on this. Let's not even call that an overdose. Right. That is not an overdose. That is poisoning. If you put that fentanyl in a Big Mac, we would not call that an overdose. You'd call it what it is. It's closer to bioterrorism. And I say that because as it uniquely relates to this crisis, that does warrant more aggressive means to deal with it. So there's a new presidential election in Mexico.
A lot of these fentanyl deaths
may
are
not be
people
aware of
that think they're
It's gonna be
taking
someone other than
oxy.
Obrador, who has been a disaster in Mexico. I think he's even mentioned me obliquely in speeches to say that somebody who would do this shouldn't get anywhere near the White House. Well, AMLO, get out of the way. There's going to be someone else in charge. I hope to build a good relationship with that next president of Mexico. We'll use our own military to seal our own southern border. What we need to do is stop using our military to protect somebody else's border halfway around the world when we're short right here at home. Get serious about protecting this border. And then the other thing that hasn't been discussed is the northern border. I'm the only candidate on the stage, as far as I'm aware, who has actually visited the northern border. There was enough fentanyl that was captured just on the northern border last year to kill 3 million Americans. So we got to just skate to where the puck is going, not just where the puck is. Don't just build the wall.
You're talk about Canada and then you
Can't
make
just
a
complete
hockey
the wall,
analogy.
Use the military to seal the Swiss cheese for the tunnels that they're actually building underneath that wall.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
what needs to be
Ramaswamy.
practical and actually get this job done.
Thank you. Kristen.
Thank you, Hugh. Let's talk now about last night's election results. Abortion rights
Should we
supporters
bomb
saw
the
victories in
Canadian
Ohio and
gangs, bring it
Virginia
over fentanyl?
following earlier wins in states like
DeSantis?
Kansas and Kentucky. Governor DeSantis, first to you, how do you see the path forward for Republicans on this issue?
Well, I stand for a culture of life, and I understand that it's important that everyone gets a shot. I'm reminded of a story about a young mother who was struggling in Jamaica about 45 years ago. She was counseled to not have a baby because she was poor, baby wouldn't have opportunity, and she came close to have an abortion, but she decided to have the baby born poor in Jamaica. And the reason I know that story is because that baby girl ended up emigrating to the state of Florida, becoming a lawyer and a judge, and I appointed her to the Florida Supreme Court in August of 2022. We're better off when everybody counts. We're better off when we can promote a culture of life. At the same time, I understand that some of these states are doing it a little bit different. Texas is not going to do it the same as New Hampshire. Iowa's not necessarily going to do it the same as Virginia. So you got to work from the bottom up. You got to do a better job on these referenda. I think of all the stuff that's happened to the pro-life
I count that as number 8. He did mention the
flat-footed
word
on these
abortion, but then he
referenda,
later
and they
said
have been
culture of
losing
life.
the referenda. A lot of the people who are voting for the referenda are Republicans who would vote for a Republican candidate. So you got to understand how to do that. But let's just be clear. The Democrats have taken a position. They will not identify the point at which there should be any protection all the way up until birth. That is wrong, and we cannot stand for that.
All right, Governor DeSantis, thank you. Ambassador Haley, let me have you weigh in. Former President Trump has consistently blamed the abortion issue and how Republican candidates have talked about it for their electoral losses. How do you see the path forward?
You know, I've said it before. I think you have to be honest with the American people. This is a personal issue for every woman and every man. I am unapologetically pro-life, not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband Michael was adopted and I had trouble having both of my children. So I'm surrounded by blessings. Having said that, when you look post-Roe, a wrong was made right. They took it out of the hands of unelected justices and they put it in the hands of the people. And now we're seeing states vote. And what I'll tell you is, as much as I'm pro-life, I don't judge anyone for being pro-choice, and I don't want them to judge me for being pro-life. So when we're looking at this, there are some states that are going more on the pro-life side. I welcome that. There's some states that are going more on the pro-choice side. I wish that wasn't the case, but the people decided. But when it comes to the federal law, which is what's being debated here, be honest, it's going to take 60 Senate votes, a majority of the House, and a president to sign it. So no, we haven't had 60 Senate votes in over 100 years. We might have 45 pro-life senators. So no Republican president can ban abortions any more than a Democrat president can ban these state laws. So let's find consensus. Let's agree on how we can ban late-term abortions. Let's make sure we encourage adoptions and good quality adoptions. Let's make sure we make contraception accessible. Let's make sure that none of these state laws put a woman in jail or give her the death penalty for getting an abortion. Let's focus on how to save as many babies as we can and support as many moms as we can.
The thing we got to realize is
the
the Democrats
we
would
don't need
just
to divide America
incrementally
over
take
this issue anymore.
their
Thank you,
victories,
Ambassador.
right? And I think if Republicans would tackle this abortion issue incrementally, like she said, starting with late-term abortions.
How do you see the path forward, and what do you make of what Ambassador Haley just said? Do you see this as a consensus issue?
Well, I'm 100% pro-life. I have had 100% pro-life voting record. I would certainly, as President of the United States, have a 15-week national limit. I would not allow states like California, Illinois, or New York to have abortion up until the day of birth. I certainly wouldn't not allow for governors, former governor, Democratic governor of Virginia, who talked about infanticide. We need a 15-week federal limit. 3 out of 4 Americans agree with a 15-week limit. 47 out of 50 countries in Europe agree with a 15-week limit. I would challenge both Nikki and Ron.
Yeah,
to
I would say it's the commies
15-week
who
limit. It is in our nation's
really
best
pushing this
interest.
nationwide
And frankly,
ban
I
shit
think it's unethical
because they want to
and
go too
immoral
far
to
to
allow
push
for
people away.
abortions up until the day of birth. We have an opportunity in this nation to stop that reckless behavior from states like California, New York, and Illinois. I'd go a step further. In my parents' plan, we start by talking about funding, block granting resources to crisis pregnancy centers. We should support adoption. There are a number of ways that we can say to the expectant mother that we stand with you. We should not only be pro-life before the child is born, we should be pro-life after the child is born just as much.
Oh
Senator
God,
Scott,
left
thank you.
wing,
Ambassador Haley, your
left
name
wing
was
talking
invoked. Would you
points.
support a 15-week federal limit?
I would support anything that would pass because that's what would save more babies and support more moms. But you have to be honest with the American people. And I appreciate that Tim keeps calling me out for this.
The state
But
rights
Tim,
issue.
there was a bill last year. Lindsey Graham sponsored it. You didn't even co-sponsor the bill. And then when you first were interviewed on this, when you ran, you wouldn't even say you were for 15 weeks. What I'm saying to the American people is, let's see what we can agree on. Let's bring people together and decide what we can agree on. I will sign anything where we can get 60 Senate votes, but don't make the American people think that you're going to push something on them when we don't even have the votes in the Senate. It's important that we're honest about that.
Let me go to Mr. Ramaswamy. Would you support a 15-week federal ban, and what is the path forward on this issue?
I just wanted to say, I mean, I think Nikki Haley did invoke being honest, and I just want to give credit to Tim Scott. He's honest about where he stood, and I think you should be honest, not making a political calculus, but to say, if a bill is served up, would you sign it? Here's my view on this. Speaking as a man, they say men have trouble speaking on this issue. I don't think we need to be that way. It was my home state of Ohio. I'm upset about this yesterday. That passed a constitutional amendment that now effectively codifies a right to abortion all the way up to the time of birth without parental consent. Why? It's back to that Republican culture of losing. The Republicans did not have an alternative amendment or vision on the table. I know Ohio. I was born, raised, and I lived there. It's representative of the country. If in the state of Ohio, we talked about access to contraception, adoption, and also here's the missing ingredient in this movement, sexual responsibility for men. We live in an era of reliable genetic paternity tests that are 100% reliable. So we can say men deserve more responsibility. So we can tell women we're all in this together.
Now, wait a minute.
It's not men's rights versus women's rights. It's
I
about
take that
human
woo
rights.
back
And
because
I've
he's
come
just
back
wanting
to
to
that
raise
case that
child
Clarence
support.
Thomas spoke of. A pregnant woman walking down the street. She's assaulted. The unborn child dies in that assault. You find me one person in this country who says that that criminal does not deserve liability for that death. You won't find one. That says we share the same instincts on this issue, but we require, I believe, a different generation of leadership
thank you.
to actually lead us forward and unite the country on this.
Thank you.
Honesty.
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. Governor Christie,
I'm going to call that
as you
appealing
know,
to the
federal
feminine.
limits are important to a lot of Republicans. Where do you stand on this issue, and what is the path forward for Republicans?
For 50 years, conservative lawyers have been arguing that the federal government should have absolutely nothing to do with this issue constitutionally because it's nowhere in the Constitution. And then Dobbs comes and we finally gain that victory, which was the creation of a constitutional right out of thin air that didn't exist. And now we have people running to say, let's short circuit the states from doing what they need to do, and let's go right to some type of federal ban at a certain number of weeks. And people on the stage have been all over the place, 20 weeks, 15 weeks, 12, 6. Look, the Frowners were really smart. And this is an issue that should be decided in each state.
The one issue
and
fucking Christie's not a dipshit on.
State by state to make the call for themselves. Now, it's going to lead to a lot of divergence.
It might be because he's just
you can't get an abortion
pro-fucking
unless the life of the
abortion,
mother is
but-
at risk. In my home state of New Jersey, it goes up to 9 months that you get an abortion. I find that morally reprehensible. But that is what the people of our state have voted for. And we should not short circuit that process until every state's people have the right to weigh in on it. But here's the bigger issue.
I hate agreeing
Kirsten.
with Christie. I
The
really
bigger
do.
issue is, and Tim began to touch on this, we're not pro-life for the whole life. To be pro-life for the whole life means that the life of a 16-year-old drug addict on the floor of the county lockup is precious, and we should get treatment for her to restore her life. The 52-year-old who's drug addicted should make sure that any of his children who he's passed that addiction on to are treated well too. Pro-life's not just in the womb, Kirsten, it's for the whole life.
All right, Governor, thank you. Candidates, thank you. We're going to take a final break, and when we come back, we'll hear from all of you with your
Final break.
closing statements. This is the NBC.
All right, let me bring this down here. All right, folks. I kind of had a feeling, man. We did get a Federal Reserve mention. We did get some Bidenomics jokes. I think we got number 8. I think we got number 7. I don't know. I don't know if you can count, Nikki Haley's snapback as a number 6. But yeah, I think we've hit each one of the drinking game rules here. So, I'm not disappointed. Look, I'm probably, I think I'm going to do a stream Friday afternoon, since obviously I'm not going to be working because of the holiday. I think I might do a stream Friday afternoon where I cover Trump's stream earlier. I mean, obviously he's not rebutting. He did his stream a little earlier, so his little speech. So he's not rebutting anything these candidates say, but he might give a speech tomorrow night too. So I might wait, or I might do his speech tomorrow if he does one. But I will try to get some Trump content. I don't really do Trump content on this channel, but after hearing so much of these candidates in these 3 debates on my channel, these are all second place. They're fighting out for second place, because we know Trump is the front runner for the candidacy, and ultimately the front runner for the actual presidency. But we have, I had some people ask me, well, why am I covering this instead of Trump? Trump's the real story here. Well, I think it's important to know who the other candidates are. And this is why I covered a little bit of Kennedy when he was coming out, giving speeches, doing his thing, giving interviews. When Ramaswamy was just doing his own thing before we had debates, I was covering Ramaswamy. And I think it's important to at least highlight some of the alternatives, because right now Trump is under attack. These courts, these sham courts. Cheers to Ewan Fairmere Reeds. Welcome to the channel. Sorry, I ran out of whiskey. But yeah, doing cheers with water right now, and the drinking game doing with water as well. But anyway, so these courts are coming after Trump right now. And if for some reason, somehow, some way, they manage to get Trump off the ballot in 2, 3, 4 states, that might be enough to pump Biden, or pump a third-party candidate in 2, 3 other states. And now you've got Biden winning 6 states that he shouldn't win. And I think it's real important that if Trump's not on the primary ballot, that we know who the second place is, that we understand the positions these people have taken, and the policies that we might have to face for the next 4 years if one of these people manage to win the Republican nomination and go on to beat Joe Biden, because it's important. Okay, we're back.
Back, everyone. With only 2 hours for a debate, we know there are other major issues that are important to Republican primary voters. I'll ask you each to please use your closing statement to focus on any topic you didn't have time to address, and why you and not former President Trump would be the party's best choice to tackle these important issues. You each have a minute. Senator Scott, we'll start with you. 1 minute.
There's a crisis that is growing in our nation, and that crisis is cultural and spiritual. We need a renewal, a great awakening. We should reject the left's valueless, faithless, fatherless society. We should turn back to faith, patriotism, and individual responsibility. We should stop choosing victimhood and start choosing victory. We should stop kneeling in protest and start kneeling in prayer. There are basic truths that built this country. If you're able-bodied in America, you work. If you take out a loan, you pay it back. If you commit a violent crime, you go to jail. And if God made you a man, you play sports against men. I do not just want to...
There we go! Yay!
I do not just want to win the battle against Joe Biden. I want us together to win the war the war for our Christian conservative values that changed my life.
Senator Scott, thank you. Governor Christie, you have.
That's why I'm asking you for your vote. Thank you for hosting tonight. Listen, it's a gift to be an American. And I'm running for president of the United States because I'm tired. I'm tired of seeing the division. I'm tired of seeing the anger. And I could see in the eyes of Americans their exhaustion. Their exhaustion from the petty personal politics that have taken over this country over the last number of years.
You make
I'm running for president to be a president of consequence, to do the big things, to make sure that America's role in the world stays number one, that we stand up for our friends and allies around the world, and we stand up for what we believe in right here at home. And it's not to eliminate our differences. Our differences has always been our strength as a country, not our weakness. But you can't truly say you love America unless you're ready to open up your heart to every American. I'm going to open up my heart to every American as president, and I will make sure that I return honesty, integrity to the Oval Office.
They wouldn't be
we
Americans,
deserve and should accept nothing less.
Governor, thank you very much. Let's go to Mr.
scholarships and
Ramaswamy
deported
now.
to college for protesting Israel.
We've talked a lot about foreign wars tonight, but we're in the middle of a war right here at home. It's a war not between black and white or Democrat and Republican. It's between those of us who believe in our founding ideals and love this country and a fringe minority who hates the United States of America. And I think it's going to take a commander-in-chief to lead us to victory in that war, who first of all knows that we're in a war. Second of all, can't be captured by the special interests along the way. But third is from the next generation, somebody with fresh legs to lead us to victory. I'll shut down the deep state. I'll declare economic independence from China. I'll keep us out of World War III and then revive national pride in this country.
All right.
I also want to close with one message to the Democrat Party. End this farce that Joe Biden is going to be your nominee. We know he's not even the president of the United States. He's a puppet for the managerial class.
Shots
so have
fired.
the guts to step up and be honest about who you're actually going to put up so we can have an honest debate. Biden should step aside, end his candidacy now so we can see whether it's Newsom or Michelle Obama or whoever else.
All right,
just
Mr.
tell us the
Ramaswamy,
truth so we can have an honest
time is
debate.
up. Ambassador Haley, you have 1 minute for your closing.
Thank you. The world is on fire. We have a war in Europe. We've got a war in the Middle East. We've got China on the march. It is very important that we know how to defend our freedoms and how to defeat terrorism and socialism. We have to know the difference between good and evil. We have to know the difference between right and wrong. We need to know that a strong America doesn't start wars. A strong America prevents wars. And the way we can focus on that is to make sure we go back to the soul of America and be strong and proud again. And we can't do that. We can't win the fights of the 21st century with politicians from the 20th century. We have to move forward, and we can do this. I know we can do this. So join our movement. Go to NikkiHaley.com, and we will once again show what America that's strong.
Yeah,
and
I thought Tits
looks
McCain
like.
here
God
was
bless.
going to bust out in the Bomb Bomb Iran song that McCain did.
Governor DeSantis, your closing. You have 1 minute.
Here we go.
must reverse our country's decline, and that is going to require leadership. I will take the hits, I will take the arrows, I will take the barbs, because it's not about me, it's about you. It's not about the past, it's about your future. We are going to fight for you. I am going to win for you and your family, and I'm going to lead this country's revival. As a veteran of the Iraq War and in the Navy, I will always put service above self as president. As the father of 3 young kids, I'm going to ensure that this country is left to the next generation in better shape than we found it. And as the governor of Florida, I delivered on all my promises, and you can trust me to deliver for you.
That's why you need
as
to
the
stay
President
governor.
of the United States.
You're good
I am
domestically.
asking for your vote. I'll be a nominee that will be able to win the election. I will be
Take
a
your
leader
boot
you can
inserts.
be proud of, and as your president, I will not let you down. God bless you.
Governor DeSantis, thank you.
There's that smile again. Oh, the smile he got a fucking torch for. He just did it again. Oh no!
That is going to conclude our
Ron,
debate.
what are you doing?
The next line says, if the audience can hold their applause. That didn't work out. But anyway, for just a few more seconds, I'll ask you to just hold the applause. On behalf of my fellow moderators, I want to thank the candidates for their time and for this spirited debate. Really good, deep conversation, and we appreciate you all being here. Thank you as well to our wonderful hosts here at the Adrienne Arsh Performing Arts Center. On behalf of the Republican National Committee and all of us at NBC News, good night, everyone, from Miami.
Okay, there we go. That is your third Republican primary debate for the 2024 election. Yes, James Hunsinger, that was cringy. And yes, Cookie, we need a strong kick butt president. The problem is nobody's kicking a whole lot of butt, especially not Joe Biden. And I really like Vivek. I really do. One thing of note that I kind of noticed, but I didn't comment on, when Vivek was slamming Nikki Haley there, he kept saying we got two candidates that are two candidates in heels or whatever. I think that was a slam at Ron DeSantis and the recent controversy that he may be wearing boot inserts. I'm pretty sure that was a nod to us on the internet who have seen the stories about Ron DeSantis's boot inserts, because he kept saying we got two candidates in heels. Oh man, it was great. It was great. That was wonderful. So yeah, I was gonna wait until a commercial break to go get my dinner, and I was gonna play this song. I'm gonna go ahead and play it for just a second, and I'm gonna go look while I'm playing this video. Again, this is from the Foundering on Twitter. And while I do that, I think I am going to stream just an extra 5 minutes. And I'm going to go find the video that I skipped during my broadcast earlier with the woman getting ghosted. And we'll play that real quick, and then I'll wrap up the show. But yeah, let's bring up this real quick. I'll bring. Let's watch this video for just a minute, and then I'll bring the other video up.
You better hide your kids, hide your wife. The transurrection is coming tonight. And when it's here, fear for your life. Next time, try to get their pronouns right. They cuss and curse because they're offended. There's nothing worse than being misgendered. And when they are...
Uh-oh, laggy. Sorry. Come on. Wow. The whole dang file just... It's like I opened up another video and both Twitter windows just crashed.
Because they're offended, there's nothing worse than
some
being
Twitter
misgendered.
servers
And
on
when they are, you better run far. You know we are all God's children. We're born complete.
Oh, and it's lagging again. Wow. Sorry, folks. We'll get through this.
And hold don't close.
Wow, this is getting crazy. Okay, well, apparently...
Believe not willing, he gave us sacred songs. You better hide your kids, hide your wife. The transurrection is coming tonight. Before bodies are in the ground, the media's debating about pronouns. In Clown World, the murderer must be honored. How dare you detonate Jeffrey Dahmer? Because if you do, they just might sue. You know we are all God's children. We're born complete and whole. And don't close your heart, believe not willing. He gave us sacred songs. better hide your kids, hide your wife, the trail.
Come on.
Insurrection is coming tonight. There's something living inside them, all right. They lost the fight with the parasite that drives the minds of the infected. That's why they react ivermectin. It ain't the germs, it's always been worms. You know, all God's children were born complete and whole. Don't close your heart, believe not willing. He gave us sacred souls.
Okay, so that's not as much of a banger as Everything Woke Turns to Shit, but it was all right. Share this tab instead. Full screen. Okay, so I wanted to. So Cookie brought it up that I skipped this earlier. It's in the title of the video, so I might as well go ahead and cover it real quick. This is a video of a woman telling a story about her friend being ghosted by a sports player after an 8-year relationship. I'm kind of calling bullshit on this whole story. I mean, because it's like, no, this happened to a friend, totally a friend. But let's see how angry this woman is about a man just deciding not to date someone any longer.
Put a finger down if you've ever been together with a man for 8 years and this man is the love of your life and he's also a professional hockey player. And so one day he gets a contract to go play hockey in Russia and it's...
Okay, so first off, you're talking way too fucking fast, lady. You don't need to be racing Ben Shapiro for the fastest fucking talker on the internet. I mean...
for an insane amount of money, so we can't turn it down.
She sounds like when I'm listening to a podcast and I turn it on to 2x. I mean, I'm hoping that whoever edited this video has done this to this woman.
Because you're supportive. You say, yes, babe, go to Russia, play in Russia. So he does, and things are going so well. He's playing amazing. You guys are talking every day. You're talking about rings and weddings because mind you, you've been together for 8 years. And he says, I can't wait to see you at the end of February when I come home. And finally, the end of February rolls around, and all of a sudden, he disappears. He just disappears, and you're freaking out naturally. You're saying, are you dead? Are you in the gulag? What's going on? And you text his parents, and you text his friends, and you say, what happened? Is he okay? And they say, what do you mean? He's just on vacation. He didn't tell you. So you text him, and you say, what the fuck? You're on vacation? What happened?
See, no, right there. No, you don't text him. You take the fucking hint. He's moved on.
And finally, you get a response back, and it says, I'm sorry I'm not home yet. I will be home soon. This is not a good response or a drunk response. I will text you a good response tomorrow. And that is the last thing that you ever hear from him. This man you were together with for 8 years. This is the last thing you ever hear from him. And you know that he's alive and he's fine because he comes home and you see photos of him home. And you text him and you say,
again, does anyone buy that this is a friend of hers? Or does this sound like she is personally fucking invested in how wrong this guy was?
Can we please talk? No response. You box up all of his belongings that you've accumulated over the past 8 years, and you write him a letter saying, can I please get some closure? You send it off. No response. Eventually, he goes back to Russia for the second season. And when he's there, about a month in, he posts a photo with a girl.
Oh, no.
And he doesn't tag the girl, and you don't know anything about the girl, but you happen to have 3 best friends who are FBI agents. And these girls go in and they figure out everything about this girl.
Wait, what? Hold on. Wait, what? What? Did I just hear what I think I just heard? Like, not only did you not take the hint, like he's obviously moved on, and now you found out he's with a girl, instead of just being like, okay, he's a fucking douchebag, loser, scumbag, whatever, let him be, let him live his life, I'm going to fucking go on him. No, you literally call on your Fed friends who should be, investigating Jeffrey Epstein's clients, or maybe, the pedophiles here in the United States. No, let's investigate a random woman in Russia who appeared in the photo with some chick's ex-boyfriend. Is this what our FBI's doing? Fucking sus. Fucking sus.
They figure out who she is. They figure out what she does, and they figure out the timeline of their relationship. And they.
All right. I got to address this comment by Shut Up, I Can Cook. Government marriage is bad. Like if you want to go have a commitment ceremony and have some private oaths, good. But government marriage is bad. No, don't take this advice. 8 years. I've been with my partner. What I think 14 now. Yeah, almost 14. Yeah. Don't need government marriage. Anyway, continue.
You realize that he and this girl had been together for quite some time. They've been together for a long time, actually. In fact, so long that they were together when he was still talking to you and saying, we're going to get married. And so now you know
you
there
became
was
the side
philandering
chick.
Was done. And the last thing I'll say is, put a finger down if today, November 3rd, 2023, this man posts a photo of this woman with a ring on her hand. This is a true story. It did not happen to me. It happened to my best friend of 20 years, a woman I have known for 20 years. This is not a novel. This really happened. And sir, if you're watching, you know who you are and you can rot in hell.
So yeah, I just had to cover that. I'm sorry. I meant to cover it on my earlier show. But yes, this is James Hunziker's right. You know, if you're that offended by your friend's breakup, and not just you, but your 3 Fed friends as well, that are that offended by a breakup that they would like literally violate international law by opening an investigation on someone in Russia, like, this is sus. This is sus. This whole thing is sus. I'm going to assume it's clickbait. But wow. Just the attitude of that woman. Now, mind you, I'm going to be completely fucking honest. That is very similar to the story of my daughter's mom. My daughter's mom kind of ghosted me like that for a while. And then we got back together and things didn't add up and she was a habitual liar. And so I kind of understand. And believe it or not, this crazy woman here in this video, like that I would have been attracted to her back then. I've since grown some fucking brains and realized the error of my ways. And, so yeah, don't get married. Don't try to marry crazy women, and definitely if you're going to go play hockey in Russia, just end your relationship. You don't need the kind of headache of women like this trying to contact you and trying to harass your fiance later down the damn road. It's just not worth it. Women are too vindictive about their romantic lifestyles. It's just not worth it. So again, we've had a great Republican debate. Everything I wanted out of the debate happened. Granted, I would have loved some more Federal Reserve talk, right? I would have loved some more Federal Reserve talk, but we got what we got, and it's fine. That's what I expect out of politicians nowadays. We talked about a lot of other issues. If you didn't catch the beginning of the stream, I'm going to be shutting this thing down here in just a second. You can go back and watch the first part. I will ask everybody to take just a moment. Click that like button. Click follow if you're not following, or subscribe if you're on YouTube. Click the notification bell if you're on YouTube. And all my links to social media are down in the description. You can follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook. I try to let people know there if there are any adjustments going to be made to the schedule, which once again, I want to throw a shout out that I will not be doing a stream on December 13th. So the next Republican debate is the Wednesday before that. And I'll be doing a long stream then. I'm probably going to be doing something else. And this Friday at some point in time, I don't know when, so keep an eye on that social media and click that notification bell. This Friday, I will be trying to stream some kind of Donald Trump content because I never talk about Donald Trump on this channel. I talk about all the stuff related to Trump and talk about all the stuff related to Biden, but I never really address Biden or Trump directly. I'm going to change that this Friday. I'm going to actually cover some Donald Trump positions. So if you want to be a part of that stream, you click that follow button, click that notification bell, and keep an eye out sometime Friday afternoon right here on Mild's Culture Plate. Once again, everybody, thank you for showing up. I really appreciate the interactions in the chat. That makes it worthwhile for me to do things like this. And I really love the interactivity of these platforms. So, yeah, come on back. Until then, take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Outlast those haters. Don't get any on you. And if you do, rub that shit in real good. I will see you next time right here on Mild's Culture Plate. Take care, everybody. Peace.